We are starting in some time. Is everything fine? कर दिया है, उधर डाल दिया। हो गया कर दिया। टाइम लग गया सब फिर आने में। देखिए आपने आउटबुक्स में तो नहीं पड़ी, फिर आई नहीं। पूरा रिफ्रेश कर दिया आगे। हेलो। हेलो। हाँ जी। जी गुड मॉर्निंग। जी बोल रहा हूँ। जी लोन की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है सर, नहीं सर, नहीं तो लोन की रिक्वायरमेंट।
The important thing is not to stop questioning. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge Professor Bal Ganpati Deverakonda, our chairperson, who could not be present with us today, but whose guidance and support are always with us. It is now my absolute privilege to warmly welcome Dr. Sumbul Farah from the Department of Sociology, Jamia Millia Islamia. Dr. Farah embodies the spirit of inquiry, inspiring us to look beyond the obvious and reflect on our world around us. We are truly honored to have her here today, and we are looking forward for the insights she is going to give us on religion and technology. I, on the behalf of everyone present, extend our heartfelt welcome to her, ma'am. It is our profound honor to welcome Dr. Shashi Tiwari, adjunct professor at the Hindu University of America, Orlando, Florida, to today's event. Dr. Tiwari stands as a beacon of Vedic scholarship, whose lifelong dedication of Sanskrit literature and Dharmic philosophy has illuminated the path for countless seekers and scholars across the globe. Her work seamlessly bridges ancient wisdom with the contemporary relevance, embodying both intellectual rigor and spiritual depth. We are truly privileged to have her share her insights about her work, human mind machines, and consciousness, Vedic reflections on spiritual and social ethics. Welcome, ma'am. Come to the felicitation of our honored speaker. On behalf of EQUINOX-2025, it is my honor respected guest for their contribution. We are truly thankful Dr. Shumban Farah, Assistant Professor of Trilogy, Jamia. Thank you so much. Ma'am, please come on the stage. No, ma'am, on the stage. Have a seat. Okay, sir. Happy to felicitate Dr. Shashi Tiwari, ma'am, a well-known Sanskrit scholar and recipient of Certificate of Honor from the President of India for her insightful talk. I request Professor Shashi Tiwari. With this, we express our heartfelt gratitude to speaker for sharing wisdom with us. Ladies and gentlemen, join the wait, sir, for the.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Sumbul Farah. Good morning, Dr. Shashi Tiwari. It is my privilege to introduce Dr. Sumbul Farah, who is the second distinguished speaker of this session. Dr. Farah is Assistant Professor of Sociology at Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. She has earlier taught at Hindu College, University of Delhi. Her area of research is religion, ordinary ethics, everyday life, and digital media, through which she explores religious practices and theological contestations among believers. Her research work on the debates and challenges emerging from digitally mediated access to religion and its importance for both religious belief and digital anthropology. Her work has appeared in HAU, Journal of Ethnographic Theory, Modern Asian Studies, and Contributions to Indian Society. Thank you very much. You are welcome, ma'am.
Now I would like to call upon Sumbul Farah ma'am to come up on the stage and speak.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, yeah, okay, great. That will be very helpful. So, thank you for having me here. It's always wonderful to be at uh, any undergrad college of the University of Delhi. That's where I've spent most of my life. I also taught briefly in the neighborhood at JMC for a while. So Maitri was definitely very much on the radar. So thank you for having me here. And I hope we have a fruitful discussion on religion and technology, and we manage to frame it in the context of the theme of this conference, which is mind and machines. Before we really get into the detail of what I'm going to be talking about, just a brief background. So, mind and machines are, of course, explored in many, many different ways, as you would have already seen in the papers that were presented yesterday and the day before. I'm going to be using religion in particular to explore what it means to think about human senses and technological ability. And in order to do that, I'm going to be looking at certain debates which are central to my field of study, which is the Barelvi school of thought in Islam. And among the Barelvis, and across a lot of other schools of thought also, you have these debates around the moon. And I'm sure you would be familiar with some of these debates. Uh, in fact, every year when you have the list of holidays which comes out, uh, invariably a friend would call me and say, "तुम ईद की 2 छुट्टियां ले रही हो, you're taking 2 holidays for Eid. How is that possible?" And it's a joke, but the fact is, Eid holidays on any calendar with an asterisk, and the asterisk at the bottom would say subject to the sighting of the moon. That is really the area I'm going to be addressing in detail today. What does it mean to sight the moon? How is the celebration of Eid related to the sighting of the moon? And what are the debates which pertain to technology in particular with regard to the sighting of the moon? So in that sense, my framing of mind and machines is going to take the human ability, human capacity, human senses. That's what I call my paper today. It's called Faithful Senses, Faithless Machines. There's a because when I say something is a faithful representation, I mean it's true to what it is representing. But when I use faithful senses, I'm also talking about faith in terms of religion. So faith, both in the context of being a true representation as well as being subject to whatever religion or whatever religion is supposed to be stipulating. So faithful senses and faithless machines is really looking at what human senses are about. What does it mean to think about a sense, and what does it mean to think about machines as an adjunct to those senses? So, for instance, if I'm looking at this audience with my eyes, I trust my eyes, right? Aankhon dekhi, the sense of observation, etc., that is particularly privileged by the positivist, empiricist school of thought, is something we are all familiar with. But what does it mean for me to have spectacles? Because now I am viewing the world with my eyes, but mediated through something else. Now that lens is a product of technology, right? That lens is definitely not an extension of my eye, even though it might be replicating the lens in my eye, right? There's a relationship between that lens inside my eye and the lens outside my eye. Now let's introduce a binoculars. And if I use a binoculars to look at this audience, I might actually see a lot more than I would see just with my eyes or my spectacles. Of the field of vision, give you a microscope. And there's a lot of interesting work. I think Hans Belting writes about it, how microscopes and even magnifying glasses really open up a whole different way of accessing the world. So I think this is a table with a particular texture. You give me a magnifying glass and it starts to look very different. A microscope opens up a whole different world that's inside this particular space. Is it still sight, or does it become something else? That question becomes very relevant when we're talking about religion, because religion very often stipulates what's acceptable and what's not. So religion, of course, we're talking about religion and also the limits of technology. Technology aids, technology enables, but what are the limits, and how do we explore the limits of both the human senses and the limits of technology? So we'll do it with reference to the moon. What I'm going to be talking about is a much larger project. So I will not be able to go into the detail of all the details, but I will talk about what is relevant to this presentation today. So the moon is a particularly interesting and particularly fascinating object for humans. It's always been fascinating because it's our closest neighbor in the sky. Even before we really got to know what it's about, the moon is always inspired, the moon is always mystified. The moon exists in religious scriptures and myths and poetry and literature in different forms. The moon has been an object of desire. The moon has figured as a goddess in Greek mythology, Selene, who's supposed to be driving her chariot across the sky. So the moon is really, even prior to the quote unquote scientific and technological way in which we started to see the moon's always been important. The moon's always been significant for humans. We did not need to know what the reality of the moon was. It was enough that she was a goddess, and it was enough that there was this shining object in the sky. Lovers would write about it. People would write odes to the moon and their lovers in each other's image. So poetry, myth, religion, everywhere you find the mention of the moon. But something happens in particular when Galileo turns his telescope to the moon. So from this idea, from this beautiful luminous orb in the sky, this plate which is beautiful and it's awe-inspiring and it's mystifying. Suddenly you have Galileo sort of focusing on it and telling us it's actually just another piece of rock, right? It's just a deserted, barren outpost for the earth. It has mountains which are very similar to the moon. We have mountains on earth. It is deserted. It has no life. And all of a sudden, that mystifying element of the moon is taken away, right? The moon becomes this thing which we know and which has really nothing to mystify us anymore. But I am starting precisely from that point, where although the mystification is taken away, technology also opens up other ways of engaging with how the moon has been seen in religion in particular. So I'll move on straight to that. Using the moon as a clock. Now, this is fascinating again because the moon has always been used as a clock in the sky. So even before humans invented clocks and watches and ways of keeping time, it was the heavenly bodies which really helped people keep track of time, seasons, days. In fact, prior to the invention of clocks and modern methods of timekeeping, people were a lot more in sync with nature and natural rhythms of the heavenly bodies. So even the term we have, do pahar, right? Do pahar is the second pahar of the day. And so on and so forth. We have many examples of how people could just tell the time by looking at the position of the moon, the sun in the sky. They could tell through the movement of the stars. If you read some of Premchand's stories, they would always mention, Dhruv Tara Kidhar Tha, where was the North Star, and what it meant for the night, how much of the night was left. Because in this contemporary modern world, we have lost that ability. For a number of reasons, we have these other methods of timekeeping. We have our phones and our cell phones, of course. We don't need to look at the sky anymore. We very often cannot look at the sky in a city like Delhi, with the pollution that we have, both particulate as well as light pollution. You can actually not look at the stars anymore in a city like Delhi, in any big city actually. But prior to that, the moon has been the only anchor for humans to keep time. The phases of the because the moon is not stable, right? What I've shown there are the phases of the moon. And the phases of the moon clearly sort of show you where we are in a month, sometimes in the seasonal cycles also. And a lot of societies, a lot of human communities have used the moon to also chart out the rhythms of domestic life, even the life cycles of cattle. So people would know this is the season where now the goats are going to be they're going to be etc. So you have all these cycles. Crops are very often not entirely completely dependent, but yes, you can see the interlinkages of the moon and the cycles of all these living things. Now, there's a lunar calendar, which I'm going to be talking about today, which is used in Islam, and the solar calendar, which we use very often, the Gregorian calendar, for instance, which we use for our purposes of modern bureaucracy. And they have a gap. So the solar year is 365 days, but the lunar year, which is the time taken by the moon to orbit the earth, is actually, no, that's the time of a month. But that for a year, the lunar year comes to around 10 to 11 days less than the solar year, which means there will always be a gap, which is also the reason why you don't actually have lunar festivals in the same season. You know, if Ramzan is March this year, next year it will be 10 years earlier, and it will sort of go through the seasons. There'll be, it will happen in winters, it will happen in autumn, it will go back to summer, and then to spring, and then back to winter. So there is this cycle with which the lunar calendar is not really in sync with the solar. And a lot of communities use the lunar calendar, for instance, the Jewish community. But among the Jews, the Jewish calendar is structured differently. So although it's lunar, it's called lunisolar because a lot of the festivals coincide with natural seasons. So Passover is supposed to happen in spring. So if you follow the lunar calendar, Passover will happen in spring, maybe this time, maybe for a couple of years, but eventually it will go back to winters, which is a problem. So what the Jewish calendar does is every three years, they would add a month and sort of bring it in sync with the solar calendar. Why I'm talking about it here is I want us to really appreciate how things we think of as objective and scientific and given, like calendars, are completely constructed on the basis of social needs, cultural needs, religious precepts, etc. So something like a calendar is not really a given. It's very much a human construction. So when I talk about machines, I really want us to pay attention to this element of what is happening with what we think of as nature or the world. There's always an intervention, and that intervention is human. Now, whether or not technology is being made use of and to what extent is what we're really looking at here. Now, there's a whole science to the sighting, but before I come to that, I'll come to the hilal, which is the new moon, which is actually the crescent. You might have been familiar with the symbolism of Islam across the world. The crescent seems to stand for Islam precisely because the hilal, that crescent, is central to the conception of time. And why is that so? Because every month in Islam, in the Islamic calendar, is supposed to begin with the sighting of the crescent. It only comes to our notice at two particular times in the year. One is the beginning of Ramadan, the other is, of course, Eid, the end of Ramadan. But even for the other months, the sighting is supposed to happen. After that, you declare a new month. So the hilal is significant on account of heralding the new month, but also heralding the special month, a particularly sacred month where you're supposed to start fasting together. I'll come to the hilal again. That's what this paper is really about. But the science of sighting is interesting. So if you look at the phases of the moon of the PPT, you'll find I'll start from the right, absolute right, which is where it's written new. That's the new moon, right? We are assuming the sun is, in the center and the earth is somewhere between the sun and the moon. The new moon is basically is that the new moon cannot be seen because it's the bright side is towards the sun and the unlit side is towards the earth. So you cannot see a new moon. You actually start to see the moon when it moves in its orbit and when it becomes a waxing crescent, as you can see on the top right corner. That's when it starts to become visible. And obviously, the higher it goes, the further it moves up the orbit, it becomes more and more visible. The hilal, in particular, is the really sorry. Influx. No, that's okay, absolutely understand. It's morning also, we know. Maybe that. Okay. The Thank you. Sorry? That'll be great. That'll be great because Hello. So thank you all for coming up to class. I hope you find it worthwhile. You've missed the initial portion. Let's hope you make some sense of it. I'll be happy to address things that you've missed after the presentation. And I absolutely understand this is to the organizers. It happens with us all the time. So I'm happy I'm on this part, this side of the stage, and not that side where I was the one apologizing. So I'm relieved. But we'll go back sort of to what we were discussing. For those of you who came late, we are talking about religion and technology in the context of the moon. We're looking at how the moon has always been a particularly significant object to keep time. But now what happens with the emergence of technology, which changes the way we can quote unquote see the moon? And what does it really mean to see the moon? Does it mean to just see it with the naked eye? If I use a telescope, is it not seeing the moon? If I use calculation, what happens then? That's what we're going to be discussing. So we're talking about the moon as a clock. When you're looking at the phases of the moon, as you can see, so when it's absolutely dark, you cannot see the moon. When it's actually the new moon, which is called the new moon. The Dhar is not the moon. Dhar is actually the waxing crescent, which is when the moon starts to become visible. And there is a science to how it becomes visible. Obviously, it's a celestial object, so it's predictable the way it sort of moves in the sky. So only when it is illuminated by around 18% does it become visible to the eye. There are reports of sighting the moon even when it is only 14% or 15% illuminated, but those are usually not taken as authoritative. So there's a whole science to how, at what point does the full moon really become visible to the naked eye? And this becomes significant as we move further because the debate is really about what does it mean to sight the moon? As we have already seen, the month of Ramadan in particular and Eid, even more importantly, depends on whether or not you have seen the moon. You can imagine Islam is, of course, as a religion, is much into the telescopes and the other optical aids. So the initial injunction which exists in the books, the Quran, the Hadith, etc., is that of physical sighting, right? You see the moon, you start fasting, or you end fasting, depending on the time of the year. What happens eventually is calculations become more and more precise. So you can actually calculate much in advance whether or not the moon is going to be visible on that day. So a lot of countries, a lot of communities started to use predetermined dates to fix the date of Eid as well as Ramadan, arguing that we know that the moon is going to be visible on this day. It's now accessible to us without really sighting it physically. So there are two views. One is that of physical sighting, which is called ruya, and astronomical calculation, which is hisab. And they're both, as you can see, opposed to each other. The traditional view, which is a very powerful view, which continues to support physical sighting, is based on a lot of these ideas, which we'll just go through. The argument is that the moon needs to be sighted physically. It's not about, and here it's very important how the month is supposed to begin. We would just mention how the new, actually the crescent begins the month, the hilal begins the month. So scholars argue it's not about the existence of the moon, it's about the sighting of the moon that begins the month. So the human element becomes central to the sighting of the moon in the traditional view, where it's because the moon, of course, exists even in its slight form before you can sight it. So the traditional view is you can't rely on just the existence of the moon. You've got to rely on the ability of the human eye, the naked eye, to really see the moon. It also has a lot of textual support, so I'm not getting into that, but a lot of texts which actually support the fact that the moon should be physically sighted by the community. Community becomes very important here. In fact, there is this really interesting video on YouTube of the Greenwich Observatory, the Royal Greenwich Observatory, where on one of these sighting occasions, you actually have a program with the observatory and a scholar who are looking for the moon. And there they show how, in fact, this particular scholar mentions that sighting the moon is not about just sighting it. It's about the fact that the community comes together to sight it. Because the months of Ramadan or even Eid are not supposed to be celebrated individually. Unlike a lot of other forms of prayer, which you can actually sort of practice individually. Ramadan cannot be practiced individually. Eid cannot be celebrated individually. So the community is supposed to come together, which really sort of gets underlined when everybody sort of, goes to the terraces, starts to look for the moon. There is a sense of community, sense of belonging, community sense of investment in this idea that we need to see the moon in order to begin or not begin the month. Accessibility, a very important point which is argued for in favor of physical sighting, is not everybody has access to a telescope. And what if there's a community on a remote island somewhere? Does it mean they also need to fix the date in advance? And the argument is the human eye is accessible. The moon is visible. It's the highest object. It's bright. It's very clear when it's seen, and it's very clear that you cannot see it. So it allows absolute accessibility to all communities, irrespective of how much technological know-how they have. So it becomes more democratic in that sense. There are also anxieties around calculation, which are sort of in depth. I'm not getting into that right now. But so the astronomical calculations can also be mistaken according to this view. So for instance, this Greenwich Laboratory video that I'm talking about cites the Venus. And the Venus at that time is also visible in that part of the sky. And Venus also has phases, which we don't really see clearly. But if we use the telescope, we can see the phases of Venus. And it's very easy to confuse Venus with the moon if you're looking for the moon. Because you think you're looking for the moon and you see this narrow band and you think it's the moon. So the argument is if you rely on technology, you might end up looking at something other than the moon and confusing it for the moon. On the other hand, the astronomical calculation has equally powerful arguments in favor of why the moon should be calculated and not left to be sighted with the naked eye. First is accuracy. You can imagine now here we're back to the debate between man and machine, back to the same idea. What is the technology doing for us? Before this presentation, we were having a conversation around WhatsApp. And the discussion really was about, there were equal sort of views on how everybody felt WhatsApp is intrusive. You constantly have messages, you can't focus. There's too much happening and too much of unneeded stuff. But we also understand how useful it is as a tool. And it's a technology which has really taken over. It's not easy to resist it. As with all elements of technology, including the electricity, which we take for granted today, because we know how to handle it. We know we won't put our fingers in the socket anytime, right? Because we know how to handle it. We don't give up on electricity. We use it knowing the dangers it brings for us. The thing about technology is it moves so fast that sometimes we accept it and integrate it with our lives without fully understanding the dangers that it brings to us. or without fully understanding the implications it might have for religious beliefs, for more grounded ideas about the world that we might have. In the case of course, digital technology, I think we need to do some real rethink. How do we use it? What are the parameters which should really determine the way we should be using it? But I'll come back to my topic, which is with regard to the telescope. So accuracy, of course, it's very accurate, it's very reliable. You can calculate and figure out whether the moon is available. So astronomical calculation argues that why not use this method than the method of sighting? How much time do I have? 10 minutes, fill up. It's also interesting how the demands of the calendar are cited as a big reason by a lot of people, arguing that even for holidays, for instance, when you know in advance, this is the list of holidays, you can plan your day, you can plan your month and year. But if you don't know what day, a particular festival is going to fall on, it becomes tricky. It becomes tricky even more for those who are living in countries and who live in communities which don't actually all follow Islam. So for instance, Muslims living in North America, and there's a huge body of work by scholars in North America on this, precisely because that debate is very powerful there. What happens if the government doesn't want to acknowledge 2 dates for a festival? Of course, here the idea of secularism is beautifully brought in, and I don't have time to get into that. What does secularism really mean? What does it mean to have 2 dates in the Indian calendar? What does it mean for a country to not make that concession? What does it mean to think about religion in the public realm, particularly in the context of public calendars, right? But that's a different debate and a particularly powerful one, which we don't have time for. But the demands of the calendars, demands of bureaucratic compulsions are such that it's argued that let's use calculation. Why leave it to chance? Why leave it unpredictable? Interpretation and spirit of religious texts is another thing which is cited. That, see, none of these texts, and very often when I teach religion, I have always taught religion, it's been my area. Very often, people argue, and I have students, we have a lot of discussions, argue that X doesn't exist in Y religion, right? And we'll be having a discussion. And then I would say, okay, so does it not exist anywhere? Some believers believe in that, but it does not exist in the religion per se. Now here we are in a very productive domain. What is religion? What are the boundaries of religion really? So texts, very often it would be argued the text sort of gives you the idea of what a religion is. But texts are open to interpretation. So both the scholars who advocate physical sighting as well as astronomical calculation use the same texts, practically the same verses, and interpret it differently. So the idea of a text doesn't mean that it's authoritative or there's only one meaning. Meanings can be multiple even when the text is unitary, even when the text is the same. That means you'll always have multiplicity of opinion, multiplicity of positions with regard to different ideas. So is it with astronomical calculation? Again, not getting into the details of it. But the last point is important, the unity of the community. Now, because Ramadan and Eid are supposed to be, Ramadan and Eid are supposed to be community-based festivals and community observances, it's argued that in the same place, imagine one group following the physical sighting method and the other following another method and having Eid on 2 days for the same place, which becomes very problematic. The idea of what happens to this community, because the community is supposed to celebrate together. This fracture really hits at the heart of what is religion and what is a religious community. So on that basis, those who favor astronomical calculation will argue that keeping that in mind, we should have a calculated method. There are no contestations around this, and I will not follow all of them, but I will only talk about 2 in particular. One is as a power struggle. Now, this is something I always bring in religion, in particular, studies of religion. It seems to be this universal idea, this para, which is there, and we just sort of take from it and follow. But if it was so uniform, why are there so many forms of belief around us? So contestations happen not just on the basis of interpretations, contestations also happen on the basis of authority. Asad has written extensively on how religion is centrally about authority. You don't fast because You want to fast for a God you have never seen. You fast because your parents fasted. They told you to fast. You fast because when you don't fast, you feel something is wrong. And I'm talking across religions here. You fast because it feels like a violation. So that for Assad is important. How religion operates in terms of power and authority as a disciplinary technique rather than this volitional idea of an individual belief. And so the question of power is very central across anything that you're studying on religion. I would always invite you to look at what are the elements of power here? What are the inequalities? And how do you track those inequalities across the arguments and the way it's believed? Because beliefs are propped up by power. Beliefs fall out of favor because of power. In some ways, I would even argue science and technology today is powerful in a way that religion is not. Despite the fact that we are very much seeing a resurgence, post-enlightenment, I think that pedestal on which science really began to be put on has not been shaken entirely. Yes, there have been quite a few earthquakes, quite a few questionings, but it's still not entirely toppled. Science reigns supreme because science seems to be this absolute idea of truth, objectivity, etc. But again, here I look at particular religious organizations and how the element of power also structures which community follows physical sighting and which community follows calculation method. So power dynamics become very central to these debates as much as the interpretation of the text almost. I'll sort of end here. Yeah, I'll end with this particular slide. There is a beautiful account, and I wish I had time to get into that. There's this account of a British priest, Timothy Patrick Harvey. No, Timothy Patrick Harley. This is from a book called by Harvey. So Timothy Patrick Harley is a priest who was also an astronomer. And so he argued that we're talking about, I think, the 17th, 18th century when he was writing. And he wrote two books on the moon. One was called the other was called Lunar Science, which is again interesting because moon lore was about folklore, myths, ideas about the moon which are rooted in the social. And lunar science was supposedly on the basis of the science of the moon. So Timothy Patrick Harley writes about scriptures, and he says what happens when we encounter difference in the scriptures. We encounter something in the scriptures which science is not upholding, or vice versa. Then who do we trust? And Timothy Patrick Harley has a very interesting account where he uses a scripture to refer to a particular biblical verse. And he says, and this is the verse of Joshua, where the sun and the moon stood still. And one community sort of managed to win over the other community. And this priest is arguing that the scripture needs to be relooked at. And he has a beautiful line which says, scriptures are human, nature is divine. Humans can err, nature cannot. And I found it fascinating because the human, the natural, and the divine are sort of on this really beautiful dichotomy, not even a dichotomy, it's a continuum of sorts, where the author is arguing that nature is divine. And on the basis of that divinity, you cannot go, science tells you what's happening there. So science cannot go wrong. Even if the scripture is wrong, you need to think of the limitations of scripture. Is it an allegory? Is it just a way of, is it an apocryphal story without truth, but just for moral sake, right? Very interesting, very powerful account of religion in the context of moon. And he's writing from looking at the Bible and looking at the moon. So wrapping up with, again, the central question that we started with, what does it mean to see? The debate around the moon really is about whether or not you should use optical aid. So binoculars also became, significant, or telescope. So a lot of people argued that with binoculars, you cannot see something which is not there. You're seeing something which is very much there. And the light which is entering the lens of the telescope is the same light which enters your eye. So it's making it visible, but it's not producing the object. So it's okay to use a telescope or binoculars. And on the other hand, you have the argument in favor of physical sighting, arguing who has access to telescopes and binoculars all the time, right? So can't we keep it simple and keep it, the human eye? Because that's something which everybody has access to. Everybody has equal right to access to everything. So witnessing is a word which comes in one of the verses. And both the physical citers and the calculators argue that the calculators argue witnessing is supposed to mention that, that you are witnessing it in terms of it being there, it's present. Those who argue for physical sighting argue witnessing means witnessing with the eye. So technology has always had a interesting relationship with senses in particular. I'm looking at senses, but across human abilities, it has a different sort of implication. But with regard to the senses, it becomes particularly important. Where does my sight end and my spectacles, is it an aid? Is it still my sight? What happens when technology enters my everyday in ways which is interwoven with my being? Right. So I'll end with this. It's like I said, it's a long project. I've been working on it for a while. Religion and technology. Actually, my work is centrally on the mobile phones, not so much the moon sighting debates. It's on how the mobile phones have changed our relationship with religion in very interesting ways. That's my major project, which I'm working on. This is an offshoot of that project, which also took me back to my PhD work. So there's a lot which I have to say. But we can always save that conversation for later, for tea, or maybe for question and answers. So I'll end here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shankar. Two sessions on senses for machines and of technology. We are truly grateful. Well, are there any questions? Any comment? Yes. Namaste, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Farah. That was a wonderful lecture. And basically, my question is always for the AI concept. From where do we enter the emotions into that? The last line, as you said, the meaning witnessing. In our belief also, as we celebrate Karwa Chauth, so the seeing of the moon on the terraces, though we know the time, it's about 9 or 9:30, but still witnessing on the terraces gives us that connectivity, emotions, and of course the community feeling with among us. So how do we enter those emotions through the world of machines?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. In fact, the last time I presented this work was at a Christian Theological Institute. So there I had a very interesting sort of conversation that take Christian theology, and this had come up in one of the somebody in the audience, and I think it's again really interesting that you bring that in how the Lord has been central to so many of our religious rituals, ideas, keeping of time, etc. It's not so much about the existence of the moon, as the physical sighters would say, but seeing the moon, like you mentioned. Emotions and AI, I think, is a wonderful and wonderfully productive field right now. In fact, again, I was working because I was working in digital religion. In particular, what happens when we start to really get invested. So I really asked a question in class. We used to call it the virtual world, right? But now we call it the online and offline world because it's not virtual anymore. This is not real anymore. Just because I'm speaking to my friend face to face is not real, and just because I'm speaking to her on chat doesn't make it virtual. It's as real. When I'm at break, it's as painful to get a message of a real conversation. Right? So when we're so entangled with machines, our emotions also are bound to get entangled with machines. The scary level of entanglement, of course, is brought through two very important examples. GR, which is about how people, there's someone who falls in love with their computer, with their operating system, because that operating system knows them much better than a friend does. You go back, there's a voice, communication happening. You have this person talking to you constantly, always available for. Why would you not be attracted to that person? How is it different from getting attracted to a real person, right? Very powerful questions on what does it mean to invest emotions in AI. The second is about a lot of the recent debates about using chat GPT to perplexity as therapists. You know, people actually go to chat GPT and type in feeling. That is, I think, a failure, a spectacular failure of us as a society. A society which is so lonely, where we actually go to yes to vent out or to reach out because nobody understands. And some sense of sanity here, we need to step back. I'm not saying we step back from technology, it's not possible, not feasible. Re-articulate to be human, to really have a community. Because, and the fact that times I've lost count of the number of times you all know it, conversation, friends, family, siblings, everybody on their devices, right? So, hate me for bringing thank you. She would hate me for bringing her here, but I always tell her, you stop to you keep your phone down. And it's I think there's something powerful here. We connect when we connect with eyes, right? The same talk, if I had given online, would have been different. I would not have been able to bring the energy I bring here. You would not have been able to access that energy. Because here I can see who's sleeping, who's chatting, who's talking, who's listening, and who's right? So there's a way in which we embody our responses. And that embodiment is important for us as humans. And that's where your question on emotions becomes very powerful. We don't interact without emotions, but when it happens through the screen, emotions can get misread, emotions can get distorted, which is why we increasingly use emojis and emoticons. You know, when I say something on my faculty group, I always put a flower because I don't want to offend anyone. Yeah. So it's so interesting, you know, how we use emoticons to just shield ourselves from the lack of that emotional connect. Right? So I think it's a very important question what you have really raised, and it needs a very targeted response from each one of us. Of course, at the intellectual level, but more at a human social level. What are we doing with our technologies? What does it mean when I'm with someone? And what does it mean to be also at my workplace at the same time? Is my workplace allowing that option to not be there? And if not, then how do I challenge, how do I work with this tension and what it does to my brain and my emotions? Right? Full question, very important thing, something which you need to continue thinking about. Thank you for flagging this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumbul. Just discussion. I think the time is running out, so we need to talk. But I think this can be carried forward later. We'll call you another time. Thank you. I had. Oh, there is one big question. Please make it brief because we're running out of time. Yes, please.
Fanchalja, a student of Hindi honors. So, ma'am, you are talking about the moon. In magic and ritual, in nature and science, in poetry and literature. So, my question is, how do poets or writers use the moon as a symbol to explore the tension between human connection to nature and the increasing presence of technology in their works?
Question, there is literature on how poets have looked at the sort of navigated both this reality of knowing that the moon is nothing but a rocky outcrop, but as well as how the moon has consistently also held on to some of its charm, right? The face of the beloved is still likened to the moon, right? Even though it's rocky, that's not what you are wanting to imply, but the literary allusions continue. But this, like I said, is a long conversation, and I know you're running short of time, so maybe we'll have it outside. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farah. Idamandham tamah krishnam jayeta bhavanatrayam yadi shabda vayam jyoti asansaram na dipyate. It is my distinct honor to now introduce the second eminent speaker of this session, Dr. Shashi Tiwari. Dr. Tiwari, recipient of Certificate of Honor from the President of India, is a well-known Vedic and Sanskrit scholar. Gold medalist, 7 gold medals from Lucknow University, got PhD degree at the age of 23 from Lucknow University. Dr. Tiwari served as a teaching faculty in Sanskrit Department of Maitreyi College and also as guest faculty at Sanskrit Department, University of Delhi, about 40 years. She worked as a visiting professor in the University of America, Orlando, USA, for a short term and still is an adjunct faculty of HUA. Dr. Tiwari has worked extensively for the promotion of Vedic knowledge as the president and general secretary of wider Association of Vedic Studies, WAVES, a registered and multidisciplinary academic society since 1996. In this reference, especially worth mentioning are 28 national conferences with international participations, which she successfully organized in the different parts of India, USA, and Nepal. She herself actively participated in more than 38 international conferences held in USA, Italy, Canada, Nepal, and South Korea. Dr. Tiwari has been honored with more than 30 academic awards from various academic institutions of India. Few of them are Bharati Mishra Award 1989 by Rajasthan Sanskrit Academy, Sanskrit Shiksha Puraskar 1994, अखिल भारतीय संस्कृत साहित्य मौलिक रचना पुरस्कार 1994 and 2000, संस्कृत साहित्य सेवा सम्मान 2005 by Delhi Sanskrit Academy, शारजा पुरस्कार 2000 by उत्तर प्रदेश हिंदी एकेडमी लखनऊ, संस्कृत साहित्य पुरस्कार 1997 and 2000, विशिष्ट पुरस्कार 2007, महर्षि व्यास सम्मान 2014 and several other
क्या तो बस कर रहे हैं
puraskars and
बस करो भैया बस करो
yes. Okay.
बस करो मैंने कहा
Okay. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Tiwari. You are welcome, ma'am. Thank you very much.
इसको भी ऑन कर So, good afternoon, girls. And girls also, because faculty is also looking like a girl. They are young girls and you are small girls. Because I am saying like that, because I was a teacher here for last 38 years in the Department of Sanskrit for 38 years. So everyone of the faculty is looking me just like girls and some boys also. Okay, this is good. Sanskrit departments from Sushil is also here. And librarian was there here, but he has gone just now. So I am very happy to be here, as you can see from my face. And I am audible. So I will, in my presentation, I will try to
analyze the relation of AI, the modern AI, and our most ancient literature, that is Vedic literature, Vedic wisdom. So from the morning, we have listened to Farah, and I am happy that she also presented very near to Hindu or Indian astronomy about solar and lunar calendar. So all this we also follow. So some girls are here, more girls are here. So I am happy, and I think you will like this presentation. And we also proud of your ancient Indian knowledge. I think in colleges there is a scheme also of ISK, ancient Indian knowledge system. So anyway, you under that also you have to you can take this presentation. And as you know by till now that I am a student of Ved and Sanskrit. So what is I am with AI, artificial intelligence. This is a new subject for me. But as a challenge, I have taken this subject, and from the last 1 month, more than 1 month, I read it, I studied about that in length, and then finally I started writing something on that. And the topic presently of this presentation is human mind, machines, consciousness, Vedic reflections on spiritual and social ethics. And in the schedule, spiritual is not written, so anyway, nothing is different from that. And in under this paper, what will be done? As you know, this is the age of sharply developing machines intelligence. Intelligence, I found that AI is a short form, but machine intelligence is its another name. Machine AI is another name. So there are many names here. And in the theme of our conference, only machines is written, but it is in the sense of AI machines, machines of artificial intelligence. So about the nature, the questions about the nature of consciousness, moral support, and social concern have taken a major position. And now you can also say that human mind has taken a rest. Human mind is stunned to see what we do because everything is done by AI. Computer-based intelligence has been utilized in different ventures today as medical field, in education, in transportation, in military, in manufacturing, in business. So many fields are taken by AI. And I am going to take some from ancient India and especially Vedas and Vedic literature. As you should know about that, you should use that knowledge, ancient knowledge. In reference to the vision of great Vedic seers, seers means rishi, who has written the mantras in the Vedas. So they are called seers in English. This presentation will explore the nature and limitations of artificial intelligence in addressing spiritual and social ethics. Then second is reflection and impact of Vedic philosophy on the man and ethics, describing mind, inner faculties and consciousness. And the third is Vedic understanding of physical and allegorical machines also. I have taken the machines also which are there physically and which are there allegorically. So I will discuss only one machine if time permits. What is the definition of machine intelligence? This is the definition I have taken from Rajiv Malhotra, and yesterday night he was speaking this subject. Machine intelligence simply refers to machines' ability to function in practical ways equivalent to humans. They are trying to get equivalent to humans, and they are functioning in a practical way, and they are as their best ability. So this junction of man and the AI has given many problems today, and I will refer to that in reference to Vedic wisdom. As there are many questions nowadays, you will have to the things, or must be AI can believe like a, no, sorry, AI can behave like a brain, but does it truly have a brain? Can machine be conscious? How do we preserve human dignity? Can they follow Vedic framework? Can AI recognize the dharma? So these are the questions. And this is a map from ancient time made from the region to show the region of Vedic Aryan, because I think many of you know about Vedas also. So what is the Vedas which I am talking about? I know, I understand you, some of you and most of you must know this thing. Vedas were written by Vedic people, and Vedic people were living in the most ancient civilization known as Vedic civilization. And this was the area. Sindhu, then 5 rivers are there, at present also that is in Punjab. So this is the region where Vedic people were living and writing Vedic mantras. So AI, is there any significance of Vedas in reference to AI? Vedic insights are useful or for all men, for everywhere. सबके लिए, सब जगह पर, सब काल में वेदों का महत्व होता है. वेद महत्वपूर्ण है, वेदों का उपयोगिता है. ये जितने भी इंडियंस हैं हिंदुस्तान में रहते हैं, जो वेदों की में धार्मिक श्रद्धा रखते हैं, क्योंकि वो हमारे बहुत एंशिएंट ग्रंथ है, तो उनके द्वारा ये बताया गया है. Vedas are for all time, for everyone, for everywhere. And that's why if AI is a problem now, I try to relate it with that in Vedic wisdom. Vedic principles, directly or indirectly, may be of significance for understanding human consciousness and artificial intelligence. So this work is done. Vedas, while ancient, offer profound reflections on the nature of mind, intellect, and consciousness and other entities. There are huge matter in Vedas about the consciousness, about the mind and other faculties of our inner other faculties as body, intellect, egoism. So all these are referred or discussed in Upanishads, in philosophy, as she is from philosophy, and related to AI matter may be provided by them. What are the source of study? Just I discussed this, and this slide I am skipping. Then I am starting my presentation actually from this point. Human mind, please. No talking, please. No talking, please. Human mind and other faculties. Vedic view of human mind and other inner faculties. What is discussed there in the Vedic literature? So, psychological views and spiritual views are on the one side, and ethical issues related to technology or machine are on the other side. Human mind, under human mind, you find many words in Sanskrit or in Vedic literature, such as mind is for manas, then chitta for mind complex. There is no English translation of chitta, but it is a very important word in Sanskrit and Hindi. Then buddhi, that is intellect. Ahankar, ego. Chetna, consciousness. And chaitanya, light of consciousness. Or sometimes chaitanya is also taken in the sense of chetna. So these are the words I have left manas because I will be discussing in 3 slides about the manas and all other things, the entities will be also discussed in detail. Antahkaran is another word. Antah means inner, karan means sense or sense, as there are 10 senses, like the sense of actions, sense of perception, Jnanendriya or Karmendriya, collectively 10, 10, 5, 5, 10. So this is Antahkaran is just like a Indriya, but it is inner faculty. It is inside, it is not visible. Eye and hair and tongue, skin we can see. The legs and hands we can see. And these are all sense organs work for us. But ahankar is another. This is the power of ego, self-arrogance. Without that, you cannot see, you cannot talk, you cannot listen. Then chit is there, with no translation, but I have done mind complex, its translation, and another mental entity. This is another mental entity, but different from others. And in Western philosophy, who know Western philosophy, they must be knowing that maximum they go up to minutes. Mind. Not from the last 30 years or so, some and later people are talking about consciousness. Generally, now people are talking about consciousness. But I think their consciousness in psychology, in philosophy, is slightly different from the consciousness which is described in the Vedic philosophy, Vedic Upanishads. So this was Antahkaran, and Antahkaran is called Chatushta, Antahkaran Chatushta. So Manas is inside in one of them, Chit is another, Buddhi is another, and Ahankar is another. Then आगे चल रहा क्या This is second. Now about oneness, which is the main name given by all the time mind. In mind, our mind is not taking anything. My mind says that I should eat this thing. So mind is the entity which we recognize. All the time we are talking about mind. So we are recognizing that mind, and I will try to explain what is this mind. Is in a body, it is in a place? Is it an organ? What is that mind? So mind is restless, mind is fluctuating. It is difficult to control mind. In Shastras, it is said Chanchalam. Krishna, Arjun says to Krishna, Chanchalami Mana Krishna. Then it comes in. So like that, we are sitting here, but we can go up to we can, the second moment we can go to sky by thinking of mind. Mind can go. दूर से दूर चला जाता है, पास से पास आ जाता है. तो ये उसकी characteristics हैं. And it indulges in faculties. What is he doing? Sankalpa vikalpa apyoko mana. This is the definition in Sanskrit. संकल्प and विकल्प, these are the two things, this and that. जैसे पूजा में आप संकल्प करते हैं, मगर वो संकल्प ये है नहीं, थोड़ा सा उसके पास है। जो पहला थॉट आता है उसको संकल्प कहते हैं, दूसरा थॉट तुरंत आता है उसको विकल्प कहते हैं। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, यू विल ओपन योर अलमारी फॉर वेयरिंग ए क्लॉथ, wearing a dress in the morning to go to college. Then your mind will say red, लाल पहनते हैं. Then the second moment it will say no, हरा पहनते हैं. तो ग्रीन और रेड में दिस एंड दैट माइंड कर रहा है, लेकिन उसी के तुरंत बाद वहां पर इंटेलेक्ट आता है, बुद्धि आती है, और बुद्धि अभी इसमें लिखा नहीं, अगले में लिखेंगे। बुद्धि इज डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी पावर, it is deciding power, it is which what says that discrimination, it can eliminate. So mind is the judging faculty, it judges, it decides. Finally mind says no, the rain is outside, so don't wear like this. So this is first in mind, it not reaches to any conclusion. Sankalp and vikalp, only this and that. So this is called fluctuation. This is called fluctuation. Now, knowing yoga, in the yoga, the first sutra is given by Patanjali, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Chitta, the same, that is not manas. Chit is the another faculty. So chitta vritti nirodha, vritti is fluctuation. The fluctuations of the mind is its characteristic, general characteristic. But when its restriction is there, restriction, then that is called yoga. Understand? No. I will give an illustration. As on the side of ocean you are standing, waves are running towards you. ऐसे करके आएंगी वेव्स, लहरें, और ऐसे करके लौट जाएंगी, फिर आएंगी, फिर लौट जाएंगी. दिस इज फ्लक्चुएशन ऑफ इन द वाटर ऑफ द ओशन. But it is not reaching anywhere. It don't have any result. Just like mind is, every time mind is doing something or the other. Even this time also, everyone's mind is अंदर कुछ चल रहा है मन में, मगर कंक्लूजन पे नहीं पहुंचता. यही बिस्तर पे लेटते हैं तो आपका माइंड चलने लगता है, धीरे धीरे सारी इंद्रियां यानी कि सेंस ऑर्गन्स रेस्ट पर चले जाते हैं. All the sense organs are on rest, but mind is working. When mind goes to rest, that is sleep. This is the best definition of sleep. What is sleep? कोई परिभाषा दे नहीं पाया, क्योंकि जो जाता है सो जाता है, सो के उठता है तो उसको पता नहीं कुछ भी. तो लेकिन एक चीज है कि इतना पता है कि वो सुबह उठ के कहता है बहुत अच्छा सोया मैं आज, कोई सपने नहीं आए. तो बात ये कि जो आपकी जो स्टेजेस हैं, वॉकिंग, ड्रीमिंग, डीप स्लीप. ड्रीमिंग स्टेज स्लीप से पहले की स्टेज है, जबकि जनरली लोग समझते हैं कि वो उसके बाद पहले सो जाते हैं फिर सपने देखते हैं. नहीं, पहले आप सपने देखते हैं. जब तक सपने देखते हैं तब तक भी आप नहीं सो रहे होते हैं, क्योंकि सोना जब होगा तो सपने भी नहीं आने चाहिए, और दैट विल बी डीप स्लीप. और उसी के लिए आपको सोने का प्रोग्राम बनाया जाता है, क्योंकि सारे दिन माइंड जो है वो फ्लक्चुएशन करता रहता है. अब वो थक जाता है. जब आप थक जाते हैं कहते हैं, तब भी यही होता है कि क्या थक जाता है, तो सेंस ऑर्गन्स थक जाते हैं, इंक्लूडिंग माइंड. सो फॉर द रेस्ट ऑफ माइंड, this sleep is important, significant, and when that is there, then only mind is relaxed. But mind is only in fluctuation. Just like another example is for chit. Chit is also doing like that. On the chit is just like a curtain which is on the back of the stage. and on curtain their lights are uh, uh, reflecting on curtain. So you can see the image. The image will be only visible when that fluctuation on the curtain will be stopped. So actually fluctuation is the problem which has to be stopped. And in the yoga, it is the very important aspect, yogaschit vritti nirodha. So just like because we are bright students, so I wrote all these things. I hope you are understanding it. So but all this happens in the presence of Atma, self, and that is called consciousness also. I have given you an illustration in which I said, जब आप उठते हैं तो आप कहते हैं बहुत अच्छे सोए, तो ये किसने बताया कि बहुत अच्छे सोए? सारी इंद्रियां सो रही थी, इंटेलेक्ट सो रहा था, माइंड सो रहा था, सो रहा था, ईगो सो रहा था, सब सो रहे थे, सब सो रहे थे, तभी तो नींद ले रहे थे। तो किसने ये बताया कि अच्छे नींद आई? That was consciousness, that was self, that was आत्मा। वो तो हमेशा रहता है, क्योंकि उसकी प्रेजेंस में सारे काम होते हैं। वो करता कुछ नहीं है, बट वो एक विटनेस है। वो उसकी प्रेजेंस में सारे, यहाँ बैठा रहता है तो सारे लोग अपने काम करते रहते हैं। तो ये इसीलिए उस ब्रह्म को भी इसी तरह का बताते हैं, ब्रह्म है, इसके काम हो रहे हैं, कुछ करता नहीं है। ये ऐसी फिलॉसफी बहुत डीप है। मैं सिर्फ यहाँ पर पहली बात बताई है आपको, तो इसलिए मैंने ये अच्छा ठीक है। एंड द सेकंड चॉइस फॉर माइंड, ये मैंने अभी शायद सारा बोल दिया है। इसमें बस एक बात बोलने की अभी इम्पोर्टेंट बात है, जो एआई से भी जुड़ेगी, जो आपका संकल्प विकल्प है, जो मन हमेशा कर रहा है, संकल्प करेगा, विकल्प करेगा, दिस दैट करेगा। तो जब एक आपने और सुना होगा कि मनसा वाचा कर्मणा, सबसे पहले कोई भी मन में विचार आता है। अगर विचार नहीं आएगा तो आप उसमें बोलेंगे नहीं, उसको विचार आता है तब आप बोलते, तब आप करते हैं। मन फिर वाणी फिर कर्म। अगर कर्म करने के लिए वाणी और विचार इतना इंपॉर्टेंट है, तो विचार जो आ रहा है वो अच्छा होगा तो कुछ और, बुरा तो कुछ और होगा। इफ इट इज नेगेटिव, work will be negative. If it is positive, work will be positive. So in the Vedas, especially in the Yajurveda, there is mantra शिव संकल्प, और वो कहता है कि तन ये मना शिव संकल्प मस्तु। In my mind, sankalp should be auspicious, and if it will be auspicious, then everything will be. So here यहाँ पर आपको mind का एक रूल बता लग रहा है, बातें नहीं करिए प्लीज। एक तो रोल ये है मानता कि वो उसकी प्रेजेंस में इंद्रियां काम करती हैं। दूसरा उसका रोल ये है कि वो अगर अच्छा होगा तो उससे अच्छे होगा। इसका मतलब एथिकल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑल्सो, ethical responsibility also, and that that gives the role of the mind. Then the third slide, where it goes, mind goes not itself, but it goes on the direction of someone, and that is Atman or something else. So I am leaving this question. It is very deep question, and now it is in the cycle. This question is also asked, but they have no answer. If this mind of human beings is conscious, this is the question. Conscious है mind की नहीं है conscious, तो आप तो का उत्तर होगा कि नहीं है। जितनी भी चीजें मैंने बताई अंदर की सारी, वो अनकॉन्शियस, कॉन्शियस तो एक ही है, वो कॉन्शियसनेस है। देन हाउ दे वर्क, दे आर कॉन्शियस। इसके लिए ये फिलोसफी में कहा गया है, सेल्फ इज कॉन्शियस एंड सेल्फ इल्यूमिनेटिंग लाइक सन। सूरज की तरह अपने आप में प्रकाशित होता है जो सेल्फ है, जो आत्मा ने, ये जो कॉन्शियसनेस है। माइंड इज अनकॉन्शियस एंड इज टू बी इल्यूमिनेटेड लाइक ए बुक। जैसे बुक के ऊपर रोशनी पड़े तो चमकेगी, वैसे ही माइंड को भी अगर रोशनी पड़ती है तो वो चमकता है। अगर कॉन्शियस लाइट सेल्फ पर पड़ती है, सिमिलरली कॉन्शियस लाइट ऑफ द सेल्फ does the mind in a conscious way, conscious form, and also appears in the form of the mind. तो इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि that is partly conscious and partly unconscious. जब वो काम कर रहा है तो कॉन्शियस है और नहीं तो नहीं है, ऐसा फिलोसफी में माना जा रहा है। मशीन के ऊपर ह्यूमन माइंड से जब जोड़ेंगे तो क्या बातें निकलती हैं, ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन होता है आजकल। जो लोग उसको यूज करते हैं, एआई को जानते हैं, वो कहते हैं कि एआई है तो अनकॉन्शियस, लेकिन वो ऐसे बिहेव करता है जैसे कॉन्शियस हो, ऐसे बिहेव करता है जैसे इंटेलिजेंट हो, और आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस। तो इसका पहला क्वेश्चन बन रहा है कि इट इज इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन, AI systems are unconscious but behave intelligently like a human mind. आप करेंगे जैसे आपको नाम बताया गया तो आप भी जान सकते हैं। AI can come closer to behaving like a brain, even a super brain, but does it have a brain? No. I think I will give you this conclusion. Does AI has a mind? Is AI conscious? So these questions and many more questions like that are in the debate between computer scientists and philosophers. And this is no answer. No answer is there. And I think there will not be no answer because all depends on the definition of the consciousness, the definitions of the mind. All these things are very, very minute and अमूर्त जिसको कहते हैं, जिसकी शक्ल भी नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, तो इसलिए इनका आंसर शायद ही बन पाएगा। ये चैतन्य आत्मा, वो तो कॉन्शियसनेस को तो अब हमारी फिलोसफी में आत्मा कहते हैं, और आत्मा जो है वो एक होता है, परमात्मा, और सब में एक आत्मा होता है। तो लाइक दैट इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट कॉन्शियसनेस इज ऑल्सो वन, इट इज नॉट बहु। इन द प्रोग्राम yesterday they were also saying like that, एकम से आत्मा, एकम कॉन्शियसनेस, बहु नहीं होता है, दैट इज नॉट डुअलिटी। एक्सेप्ट वेल्थ का मैं आपको पहले बता चुकी हूँ। Upanishad declares Pradyanam Brahma, then again they say consciousness is Brahma. It is difficult from the body, the sense organs, the intellect, the mind and the ego. ये जो कॉन्शियसनेस है ये क्या चीज है, इसको भी ढूंढने के साइंटिस्ट और साइकोलॉजिस्ट, क्यों, मगर इतना तो हमें पता है कि दैट इज नॉट बॉडी, दैट इट इज नॉट सेंस ऑर्गन्स, नॉट इंटेलेक्ट एंड नॉट माइंड कॉम्प्लेक्स और नॉट ईगो। Vedic philosophy asserts it can be known, recognized, pratibodh viditam. It is known through every. This will be very difficult to understand you, so I am leaving it. AI and ethics dharma. This now the slides are very important. The question asked nowadays is AI can be ethical? Is AI can follow? Seen these questions because it is known that sometimes AI is behaving like a bad boy. Have you heard this thing? They started talking, writing something which was not ethical, which was not moral. So if I think you everything about the functioning of the AI, all data which is put in that, data input is there, maximum data input is there, and when there is a question, any prediction, any query, then AI gives reply, and everything is going in writing. You will write the question and AI will reply in writing. So this type of AI functioning is there. And because data is maximum data related to whichever field is there. So related to that field only you will ask the questions. So like that it is functioning nowadays. But this is the question raised all the time. Is AI will be ethical? Is AI will be moral? So Vedic knowledge is there to do something. And that is while machines can be programmed to follow rules. When they are programmed, it is also put there that they should follow these rules. So they are following these rules. But can they recognize or can they act according to Dharma? Because in Vedic culture, in ancient culture, in Indian culture, Dharma is the root of the religion. Dharma is the root of the philosophy, spirituality. So, and if they do the Vedic rhythm, Vedic dharma, then they will not follow. And here, a human being is following dharma. So he is going inner transformation, he is accomplishing inner transformation. So that AI cannot transformation. So this is limitation of AI because dharma is not there to guide it. It नहीं कहते machines को machines कहते हैं. ये भी मेरे को पढ़ते पढ़ते 2 हफ्ते के बाद पता लगा machines क्यों लिखा हुआ है वो क्यों कहते हैं उसको. They think they are doing because they are all the time different machines are collectively called here and their intelligence is called artificial intelligence because it is not truly intelligence. What that data input is coming out by him. So actually AI is not intelligent, but AI is not conscious. AI is not intelligent. AI systems lack self-directive will, moral responsibility, and awareness. This is an important sentence because it lacks all these things. It cannot follow the dharma. It cannot follow the ethics. And what about Vedic knowledge? This was a question I myself prepared and tried to answer it. If all knowledge to the systems, artificial intelligence systems, machines, so they will be most knowledgeable. Who will be most knowledgeable? आपको कल रात को देखा था सुभाष टाक ने इसके बारे में बोला था कि अगर सारी नॉलेज उसमें चली जाएगी, डाटा इनपुट हो जाएगा, डाटा हो जाएगा, तो फिर इंटेलिजेंट हो जाएंगे, अक्षर जैसे बिहेव करेंगे, आदमी को नष्ट करने के लिए दौड़ेंगे. और अगर अच्छी दृष्टिकोण से डाला जाएगा तो तब भी करेंगे, वो देवताओं की तरह अच्छा करेंगे. तो अभी भविष्य ये सब है. आप जो राजीव मल्होत्रा बोल रहे थे वो फ्यूचर ऑफ द एआई पर बोल रहे थे, तो ये फ्यूचर है. तो मेरा भी क्वेश्चन यही है कि वैदिक नॉलेज, इफ वैदिक नॉलेज, ऑल वैदिक नॉलेज इनसाइड मशीन, it will be most intelligent. Vedic knowledge विशेषज्ञ, वेद विशेषज्ञ, Vedic scholar. So can AI be Vedic scholar? क्या वो वैदिक स्कॉलर की तरह शास्त्रार्थ में भाग लेने जा सकता है, डिबेट में भाग लेने जा सकता है? नहीं. दूसरी बात ये भी है कि अभी फिलहाल तो वैदिक लिटरेचर को विजुअलाइज करके डाला ही नहीं गया है, बहुत थोड़ा सा डाला गया है। मैंने देखा था करके तो सिर्फ जो मंत्र जैसे मैंने बोला सहस्र शीर्षा पुरुषा सहस्राक्ष अक्षः, तो उसने लिख के दिया, तो उसने सारा वो लिख के उसके साथ पूरा लिख के देता चला जा रहा क्योंकि उसके बाद सारा वो इकट्ठा है तो वो दे सकता है वैदिक नॉलेज के साथ। बट मैंने बताया कि वो वैसा विद्वान नहीं हो जाएगा, क्योंकि वेद में नॉलेज भी है, बहुत सी हिडन नॉलेज भी है, बहुत सी रिफ्लेक्टिंग नॉलेज रिफ्लेक्ट होती है, जिसको आध्यात्मिक नॉलेज कहते हैं। सो नॉलेजेबल बस वो डाटा उसके पास होगा और वो बता सकता है, कोशिश कर सकता है थोड़ी बहुत। एक मशीन के लिए मैं उदाहरण देती हूँ, अगर आपको समझ आए तो ठीक है, नहीं तो अच्छा ठीक है, मैं इसको छोड़ भी सकती हूँ। मैंने पहले ही कहा था कि जब सिस्टम्स को मशीन कहा जा रहा है तो मैंने ये दिखाने की कोशिश की है कि वैदिक पीपल को मशीन्स पता थे कि नहीं पता थे, नहीं तो क्वेश्चन करेंगे कि मशीन्स तो पता नहीं थे तो उसमें आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस कहाँ से डालेंगे। ठीक है ना क्वेश्चन, मशीन्स उनको पता है कि नहीं पता है, तो मैंने उसकी रिसर्च करने की कोशिश की। जैसे कि क्राफ्ट है, टेक्नोलॉजी है, कपड़ा बनाना है, जेवर पहनना है, हथियार बनाना है, तो लोहा सोना इन सब चीजों का टेक्सटाइल जब वो सबका यूज कर रहे हैं तो क्या टूल्स नहीं होंगे उनके पास? टूल्स होंगे, मगर मशीन की जो डेफिनेशन है, आजकल जो मशीन की डेफिनेशन है उसको मैंने खोजने की कोशिश की। मुझे पता लगा कि मशीन उसको कहते हैं जो पीसेस के कुछ पीसेस को जोड़कर एक इक्विपमेंट बनता है जो मैन है, और सेकेंडली उसमें मूवमेंट होता है और वो कुछ उद्देश्य लेके बनाया जाता है, कुछ काम भी करता है, इसको मशीन कहते हैं। इम्पोर्टेंटली ये है कि उसमें एनर्जी डाली जाती है, जैसे कि या तो गैस होगी या तो चार्जिंग किया जाएगा या बिजली लगाई जाएगी या सेल लगाया जाएगा, कुछ ना कुछ पेट्रोल होगा, और जब वो खत्म हो जाएगी एनर्जी तो वो खत्म हो जाएगा, उसका भी बोलना खत्म हो जाएगा। सो इट दिस इज द लिमिटेशन देयर, जो कि इसके साथ नहीं होगा। ऐसे मैंने पाया कि मशीन्स उनके पास जो है काम तो कर रही है, बिना बिना एनर्जी के कर रही है, उसका मतलब है कि वो मोस्ट पावरफुल और सिंपल मशीन्स हैं। सिंपल मशीन की परिभाषा है ये जो मैंने अभी बताई, इट इट डोंट यूज एनी एनर्जी। तो उसके उदाहरण कोई कहेगा भाई आपके पास कोई उदाहरण है? तो मैं उसके ढूंढती साइकिल, वो साइकिलिंग है, वो हाथ पैर चला चला के लड़का करता है, तो वो जो पैडलिंग दैट इज विदाउट एनी एनर्जी इनपुट, but it is working, it is just like a machine. So that is the example, and in our Vedic people they were having machines, they were using machines, I can say like that. And this is very important, आप पढ़ेंगे जब तो, नहीं तो घर में जाके कठोपनिषद पढ़ लेंगे, उसमें आत्मा रूपी रथ, एक चैरियट रथ बनाया गया है, उसमें रथ के जो अंग होते हैं वो और शरीर के अंदर के जो अंग होते हैं वो जोड़े गए हैं, और जो सही चलेगा वो तो जाएगा डेस्टिनेशन तक, और जो गलत चलेगा वो जाएगा गड्ढे के अंदर। तो ये भी बता दिया गया है। तो यहाँ पर आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस नहीं है, यहाँ पर रियल इंटेलिजेंस है। Vedic concept remind modern AI. This is very interesting and I myself have done everything. मैं जब वेद को पढ़ती हूँ या पढ़ाती हूँ तो मेरे घड़ी घड़ी जब से मैंने एआई किया पढ़ा, मुझे घड़ी घड़ी उससे सिमिलरिटीज मिलती हैं जो कि नेचुरल होगा भी। तो ये फॉलोइंग कॉन्सेप्ट मुझे मिलते हैं जिनको मैं अभी 1 मिनट 2 मिनट में खत्म हो जाएगा। तो जैसे कि आपको पता है राक्षस लोग हैं जो जिनके पास वर्ड्स होते हैं, फिर बहुत से ऐसे ब्रह्मास्त्र है, ये वाला अस्त्र जो जाता है लौट के आ जाता है। तो ये इस सब चीजों को पढ़ते हुए एआई की याद आती है, जो एआई है वो भी तो ऐसे ही कुछ करता है। फिर वैदिक जो धर्म है, बता चुकी हूँ कि मॉरल्स एंड एथिक्स पर हमारा जो वेद में पढ़ाए जाते हैं वो उसमें नहीं पाए जाते। जैसा कि प्रश्न किया गया था, इमोशंस नहीं होंगे, सेंटिमेंट्स नहीं होंगे, एक्सपीरियंस नहीं होगा, ये सब चीजें कैसे रख सकता है, क्योंकि वो कॉन्शियस नहीं है। जब एक बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट मुझे मिला, आप लोगों को बता देती हूँ, बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट है। वो ये मिला मुझे उपनिषद में कि जो कॉन्शियसनेस है वो मैनिफेस्ट करती है, वो प्रकट करती है, वो पैदा करती है। और जो पैदा नहीं कर सकता, नहीं बना सकता, वो कॉन्शियस नहीं है। ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात है। कॉन्शियसनेस की परिभाषा किससे कैसे बनेगा ये भी यहाँ पर बताया गया है। ये इंश्योरेंस निकलते हैं जो अभी मैंने थोड़े थोड़े बता भी दिए हैं। और ये कंक्लूजन निकलता है कि वैदिक वैल्यूज जो हैं, जब हम उसमें डालेंगे, थोड़ा बहुत वैदिक नॉलेज को डाला जाए, वो वैदिक नॉलेज समाज को दे, एथिक्स समाज को दे, लोगों को पढ़े। जो एआई कर रहे हैं उनको अनसन मटेरियल ना देकर जो साफ सुथरा मटेरियल है वो दिया जाए, और उसको माध्यम बनाया जाए मनुष्य की उन्नति का, और मनुष्य को माध्यम बनाया जाए उसकी उन्नति का। उसकी भी उन्नति करनी चाहिए, वो ह्यूमैनिटी के लिए बहुत कारगर सिद्ध हो सकता है। सो इस पेपर के द्वारा मैंने कोशिश की एआई जो मॉडर्न उसके और जो वैदिक विजडम है उसके बीच में एक पुल बनाने की कोशिश की। वो पुल बना कैसा पता नहीं। धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much, Dr. Tiwari. Now the house is open for interaction, but as we are running out of time, only one question is allowed. Is there any question?
वन क्वेश्चन में नहीं होगा।
Yes, please. Give her the mic.
Hello. Sanskrit department. Ma'am, I want to ask that how does philosophy compare consciousness with artificial intelligence?
आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, नो कंपैरिजन।
Okay.
It was there a slide first.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
There is no comparison between human mind and artificial intelligence. Only on surface they look like same. They are behaving like same as human brain, human mind. But जब हम अंदर जाते हैं तो अंदर खोजने की कोशिश करते हैं तो वो मिलते हुए नहीं दिखाई देते हैं।
Thank you so much, ma'am. On behalf of Maitri College, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speakers, Dr. Sumbul, Dr. Shashi Tiwari, for their episodes. I also thank our faculty, organizing committee, volunteer, and support. Lastly, a very thanks to all participants and audience to engagement. This session. Thank you.
यही सब हो रहा है वैलिडिटी।
That's an announcement to make. Discussing probably. Because it's 11 o'clock, so we can't let it wait longer. So standing.
इधर से इधर इधर आ रहे हैं तो एक फोटो
इसको निकाल के वो दूर आगे पीछे दोनों साथ में डालेंगे ना एक वाला स्टैंड किस किस का बच रहा है कितने चाहिए 3 और चाहिए वो चाहिए ना
जब हम आए थे
गैप देंगे तो नहीं आएगा, देना तो पड़ेगा ना। पता है तो उसके बैठ अब थोड़ा गैप कोई नहीं यार, अच्छा लग रहा है, कुछ तो अच्छा लग रहा है। Shit. अंदर कर दे।
बस बात करके रहा लोगों को
आ जाएगा।
Just half a second. Good afternoon, respected faculty colleagues, distinguished participants, dear students, and to those joining us online on the YouTube channel. I warmly welcome you all to the session, the valedictory of Equinox 2025. Truly delighted to have us. Since we have the esteemed lecturers with us, I now request all of you to please kindly come forward to make this conclusion with ceremony. A gesture that symbolizes wisdom, continuity, and the spirit of independence. We invite our chief guest, Professor thanks to all of you. It's just conclusion. Perhaps the big questions. Strong in to appreciate their commitment and the spirit with which English has been led to success. At this Chief Guest, respected Professor Pawan, Executive Director, CPJ Center, actually. Uh, uh, Chief Guest. Before further introduction, so like to take this opportunity. That's all. Time out. Special moments. I now introduction, Chief Guest. Over to you.
Thank you, Nikita. Extend a very welcome Chief Guest, Professor Pawan, and to all our dear participants as we gather for the valedictory session of this conference. Equinox 2025 was inaugurated by Professor Pawan Sharma, Vice Chancellor of MIT University, Goa, and over the past 3 days, we witnessed a rich exchange of ideas and perspectives. With 8 technical sessions and 16 TED talks, the deliberations revolved central theme, actions, interdisciplinary actions, science, society, and ethics. This theme was debated, examined from diverse vantage points, through disciplinary spirit of critics. On explored the immense purpose of machines in enhancing human life. On the other hand, challenges that machines and mechanization pose, challenges that touch the very essence of humanity and our social fabric. We heard thought-provoking arguments that mechanization, if not checked, could be a kind of station of the mind. Concerns were raised about the potential in series with global USA and China at the forefront. Equally pressing were the warnings about increased unemployment, telling us that in the coming years, to rethink the skill sets we seek to cultivate in order to be relevant and resilient. Alongside these stimulative topics, 73 oral and presentations by students and faculty from across India focusing both innovative and research. Today, as we gather here for the session, it is my privilege to welcome our Chief Guest, Professor Pawan, Executive Director of CVJ Center for Synthetic Biology and Biomanufacturing, Kochi. Sir is a leading in basic synthetic biology in India. A former dean of the School of Biology, JU, he served on the governing councils of major universities and national institutions, spun off to biotech companies and the Dhar discovery platform, recognized by the Science Commission as potentially groundbreaking. Dr. Dhar has established research groups in Japan, Singapore, founded the Systems and Synthetic Biology. His work spans experimental, computational, and policy spaces in biological sciences. Dr. Dhar has been invited to speak at the United Nations, the European Commission, the National Academy of Sciences, USA, and scientific bodies across Asia, Europe, and America. So this is just a very small bio of these achievements. Sir, I welcome you once more and I request you to kindly deliver the keynote lecture.
Slide change में no. क्या तो बंद Good afternoon and thank you very much, Dr. Bradoti, for your generous introduction, and also I would like to thank Maitri College for inviting me. Of many options you had, I was privileged to be here, and it's wonderful to see brilliant audience here, and certainly makes me nervous, and I need to meet your expectations, and I hope that I'll do justice to the responsibility given to me. So today we're talking on, are you able to hear me, everyone at the back row? Okay, thank you. So today we are talking about a topic that's not very usual. Talk of incremental innovations. and the impact of that in the society. Now we're talking of something which will have a far-reaching impact. By the time you graduate, go for post-graduation, and maybe some of you go for PhD and get employed in due process, there will be a major shift in the way we are finding ourselves in the near future and of course the far future as well. Now, it's easy to survive if you know what's coming up, but it is very difficult to manage the expectations if you do not know what's going to happen in the employment space in future. So today, I brought together this few slides for your brainstorming if you feel comfortable and you connect with those things. And I hope that it will give you some material for your future plans. So here in the opening slide, you see there are two things. One is human and the other is machines. And of course, the central point of the talk is the value. If you look at all the human beings, you know, we are beings, we're not creatures, right? If you say animals, we call it creatures, but only for humans, say it's a being. There is an awareness of that I exist. Where does it come from? It comes from the inner intelligence. So when now we are competing in the space of intelligence with the machines, then we need to see, are we ready for that? What is coming up? Both the predictable and unpredictable consequences, and how do you handle those things? There are predictions that 10 years from now, there will be human conflicts. People are already preparing format. How do you handle a human robot conflict in future at your workplace? So it is not to scare you or to depress you or to make it fearful. It is just that we need to see how things are shaping up in the future and how do we prepare ourselves. So before I dive into the other details, it will be nice if you go slowly with the definitions and then slowly graduate to the other concepts. So there are two key things here. One is the machine and there is a robot. Robot is a machine, but every machine is not a robot because a machine normally takes instructions and executes a job, but the robots have the ability to think. Now, thinking does not mean having neurons in the brain. Thinking just means that there is a bit of autonomy to decide what to do with the inputs that are coming to robots. And if you look at the machines, they're all logic-based. It's not emotion-based. You know, humans are emotion-based and logic-based. But machines are only logic-based. There is no emotion, which means tomorrow we're trying to create a robot and it goes haywire and it lose control over robots, then they don't have any emotions of whether I'm killing the person or I'm causing any harm, because they themselves don't, they are not going through the pain, they don't have pain receptors. So therefore, it is important for us, those who are designing these systems, highly sophisticated systems that have ability to think independent of humans. Now, those systems that we are designing, it's very important that we put some controls the way it will behave, the way it will evolve, and even the independent thinking, there are some controls. But then how does it think? It's through trial and error. You get the data of different kinds, and then there are algorithms which tell the robot that this is how you have to be on your own within a certain space. And as they get the data, they process it, feedback loops, they keep thinking and taking independent decisions. Now, one of the terms that has been used in this community is the Turing test. What is the Turing test? Is when a machine and a human pass messages to each other, and then there is an independent person who is looking at the messages. If the person, the evaluator, is unable to see which one is machine message and which one is human message, the machine has passed Turing test. Okay, this was done long back. This is not now, many decades ago. This was done, and this is the time, you know, when the artificial intelligence concept started coming up. Now, they're all based on feedback loops, instructions, boundary conditions, and so on. Just because you're mimicking human language does not mean that you are mimicking emotions. That's where the difference is. So the way AI has evolved through decades is that first AI boom was when you're describing the system. You know, are you define what you're able to see? Say, for example, you take an image of the plant and then you send to AI, and if it says it's a chair, then it is definitely not intelligent. When you say it is a plant, then obviously the pattern recognition algorithms are working very well. So that was the first stage when AI had some impact. The second one was when after this there was some kind of a gap because a lot of discussion, brainstorming, fundamentals are getting cleared. So then the second AI wave was when there is a categorization of what you're able to see. And at that time, machine learning came up in a big way. And it was practiced, and there were a lot of other things. I'll not get into the technical details. And the third AI that we are witnessing as users is when there is what we call as a generative AI. Now, this is different than the AI waves that the community has experienced in the past. Because now we are talking of machines that are able to process text data, image data, video data, and then make sense out of it, and then come up with a response that looks human-like. And then not only that, but also they're assisting in the work. Today, if your teacher is giving an assignment and you don't know what to do, you go to ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or platforms like that, and then say, okay, can you solve this question for me? Now, the machine can solve the question, but he will not know whether the answer is accurate. Now, you pass the answer to the teacher without scanning it, there's a likelihood that you have committed a mistake. There's a likelihood. And if the teacher runs it through AI detection algorithms, then you're in deep trouble because it will say, okay, this is an AI answer, this is not a human answer. Even if you use AI output, there are ways to do that. You use AI output, still the AI will detect that it's a humanized version. So therefore, I would suggest to students, if you come across this situation, please try to think yourself. While you take assistance from AI, do not depend too much on that because there are errors and there are algorithms that can detect whether your answer is AI enabled or is it coming from your own work. So the next upgrade on the AI is what we call as agentic AI, because all you need to do is like now you have Siri, you know, what you do is you say, hey Siri, play this song, play that song. I don't like this, I don't like that. You start verbally or you have some kind of non-text interaction with the system, the AI system. However, the next phase is when AI will be an agent for you, which means that you want to book a trip, you want to manage your projects, you just tell AI, okay, this is my workflow, please do this, and they will do that. Whether that will be accurate 100% and you're convinced, that's a different issue. That is where human element comes to the picture. And the multimodal AI, likewise the artificial general intelligence and so on. As we are moving up the technology scale, we are also moving up the dependence scale. It is not just technology because technology is addictive. Right now, when you send a WhatsApp message and there's a double tick, you get very restless that the person has seen the message and not responding. At least hands up, at least some flower or something should be there to indicate that I've seen the message. And if the person is not seeing the message, you feel, oh, this person is very rude. Contrast this with our generation when we used to send message using a manual way, an inland or an envelope, and we used to get response in 21 days, 3 weeks on an average. That was considered normal, and we did not feel offended. But now the current generation, 5 seconds, you feel restless. This is what AI does to you. This is how AI has already taken intelligence and made you addicted. Now the way to move forward is respond immediately. because you have to have some control. If you don't have any control over the technology, you become the slave of technology. Your also reflects what technology wants you to do. So therefore, some amount of control should be in your hand. If you lose control, that's where exactly we will, because your is getting automated. Deepfakes have become very common. I went to Singapore. We had this visit from jail for some official work, and when we left Singapore, we found immigration authorities. Normally, you go through the immigration channel. There are no immigration authorities. What is there? And just a barrier. You show the passport, either it opens or it stays closed. And who's making the money? There are bouncers. After the barrier, there are two bouncers who are saying if you break the rule, they'll catch you. Immigration officers have already been replaced by AI. Very soon, the radiologists, those who see the ultrascan and they see the X-ray images, there are billions and billions of image data with the systems. And these machines can run 24/7. In future, maybe 5 years from now, or maybe 10 years from now, or depending on how things show, your general physician may be just an ATM machine. So just put the clinical investigation there and you get a recommendation, and this ATM machine will link up with the pharmacy, and all you have to just collect the medicines and follow certain protocol. Even doctors are eliminated from this. Neurosurgery, you know, there's a surgery, right? So you don't need to hire those neurosurgeons. You can remotely do the surgery. If that can be done, why can't other 22 jobs be replaced? And this was highlighted by some AI experts, maybe 5 years, 7 years back. Kai-Fu Lee, one of the very, very, respected thought leaders in the community, he wrote a book from China. And he said that there are certain jobs which are going to be replaced. And wherever you are talking about those jobs are getting replaced. Well, emotions intact, those jobs are very difficult, but AI is also trying to take away those jobs. And when the near dependence is, it's a near complete dependence, because now what happens is the more connected to those platforms, the more dependent. And then you see that you're passing 100 messages per day, as against us, where there was one message in 1 month or maybe twice in 1 month. 100 messages per day. At the end of the day, you still get depressed, unhappy, angry, exhausted, and there's no clarity of what to do next. Because this is a digital addiction. That's why Sri Rajiv Malhotra ji says that we have become digital morons. This is what it does to us without the knowledge, because we're not thinking any longer. Those who are using Google Map all the time, you realize that you cannot live with it for some time. You still play that. How does it matter if you're 5 minutes extra, 5 minutes late? How does it matter? So you are in a big car. This was your dream car. Now you're going from your home to office. This was a dream car that we made a lot of efforts to save the money and buy this. If we stay 10 minutes extra in the dream car, you should be happy, isn't it? But we are annoyed. Because of the AI problem, of the computational problem, our mind has been connected with the computation. Now, even 1 minute seems to be a big deal for us. There was a time when we were kids, when we were in this meeting, for example, the talk at 12 o'clock and the speaker comes at 12:30. Audience come at 1 o'clock, everyone is happy. But now everything is at 12 o'clock. So what has happened is emotions have been erased. It's only productivity and productivity and productivity. And when you are part of this, you become like a machine. You cannot change it because you are imbibing all the qualities of the machines. So when your best friend is a machine, you become a machine end of the day. If your friends are human beings, then relax. You can make errors. You can, there will be delays, no problem. We are hungry, there's no food. Still, when you're talking, you forget about the hunger. But that will not happen. I've seen a lot of people when at home, when we eat lunch or dinner, sit in the front, and then we just pray for 1 minute. Thank you very much. Whosoever brought the food to us, thank you so much. You go to McD, do you pray? Same people who are praying at home, do you pray when it's a McD or KFC or other fast food restaurants? Same food, they are also same food because it's mechanized already. So your emotions have been taken away. This is the emotional content we have to get back. As the AI proceeds, our emotional content should be high. Otherwise, we'll finish as human beings. We'll be creatures. We'll be robo sapiens, not homo sapiens. So now, moving forward is governance. Human autonomy is reduced. Due to time, this is going to happen because everyone is a fan of convenience. You see, the knowledge in the space of inconvenience. If you're looking for convenience all the time, you get expertise. You cannot sleep and then say that I will be enlightened. No, you have to work for that. You cannot take rest and think that you get the hands-on expertise in the lab. You have to work for that, which means knowledge is in the space of inconvenience. And if you're time, we're finished. And this is what is going to happen to us. And also there's a biosecurity risk, people designing new kind of viruses. It's very easy today to design a new deadly virus. It's not a big deal. Without AI also we can do it because your computation tools allow, which means now the oversight on the projects as the technology evolves becomes less and less. How do you maintain a certain social order when you have too much of power in the hands of people? This is a problem that we have to address. And as teachers, we have been already told that our lifetime is nearly over. We better shape up, try to have different ways of survival. Otherwise, robots are taking over as tutors. They will be there 24/7, and they will have access to all the literature on the PubMed or the Scopus. You name the journals, you name the website, they have all the data. So you ask them, give me a specific module from this knowledge section, they will extract and give it to you. We human teachers cannot do that because we can do only what we have learned. We can enhance it over time, but we have emotional content with the data. They don't have emotional content. So this is where things are moving. There are places, there are organizations where Coursera, edX is part of their teaching curriculum. They've already taken away the teachers for that. They say if the Coursera can teach, why should we teach? So who is the examiner? Maybe a graduate or a postgraduate student. Say, okay, the questions are coming from there. You just write the questions, I will mark it. Then thank you very much. You get a knowledge. Okay, paper degree not leading to employment is a big loss to the human intelligence. And the worst still is when we are a big fan of the grades. A minus, A plus, everybody gets A plus, maybe more pluses. The more the pluses, the better it gets. But tell me, when you graduate from one semester to the other semester, how much of knowledge you retain with what you got A plus in the previous semester? It's all evaporated. So human intelligence has been reduced to numbers. When numbers are celebrated, human intelligence is not celebrated, it will take over. So if you say, I got B minus, and I'm happy, because this is how much I deserve. It doesn't matter. This is an opportunity for me to improve. And I don't like the subject, I'll do something else. This is where the human agency has to come in. There was a time when we were young students, then, and in Kashmir, they used to, in the 10th standard, they used to announce the result on the radio. Okay, that we don't have internet, no television. So when the result is announced, everybody is around the radio. And when your result is announced, you celebrate. It doesn't matter whether, first class, second class, third class, or no class. you're very close to the passing marks. 33% was the passing mark. If you're 34%, you are celebrating. Because you don't have to what's your rules. You just celebrate. We have lost that. Now, even a person with 95% is depressed. Why did I lose 5%? My own daughters, for example. Why did I lose 5%? I said, whatever you used, I used to get only that. And we were happy you were depressed. This is what competition does to you. And we are still alive, right? Even with the 5% grades, we're still alive. We're still doing well. You might be doing well in one subject, but next class you can do better in another subject. If you don't get good grades, it's a great news. You have more opportunity of exploring the world. This is not the way we are being told. We are being just told that you have to sit on the top of your heads, and the top is going to celebrate, everyone will suffer. This is the way our education system has moved forward, which is necessary. This is where we need to change. And now Mr. Elon Musk says that, I implant chips into your brain, make you more intelligent, which means that the brain is also going to be under control. And now they'll say, okay, the patients, and we'll make them walk. They will fantastic examples, and you'll be very inspired. Then they'll say, okay, let's see what happens on the weekend. Let me put a chip and see what happens on the weekend. Just like sometimes your friends say, okay, just do a puff. Nothing wrong will happen. And that puff frequency increases and you become addicted. Loss of control is what we have to avoid at all the cost. If you want to, if you want to be creatures, that's fine. That's where we are going anyway. We are going towards the post-human governance and become the digital zombies, because everyone is happy carrying mobile phone all the time. And everyone is messaging. If we say don't message, they will still message in the head. At least pay attention for 5 minutes. After that, you can enjoy your life. But the attention span has decreased simply because something else is cooking up in the brain with a huge competition infrastructure there. It could be something else, but then you don't know what to do. So you keep thinking. And then there is also robots are going to take over as the masters, and there will be a slave. This is also going to happen if we do not stop ourselves and if we do not take charge. So what can we do about it? There is an existential issue which will come up, and this will be started by the advanced countries. They will show the demo, and we will buy those technologies. And it's all about convenience. They will say, okay, you will get 5 lakh a month. You don't have to go to office, and the robots will work for you. They will invest in shares. They will. You'll be very happy that you don't have to work at all. But tell me, if you're at home, what will you do? It'll be more depressing. Work from home is more depressing. At least you come to the office and talk to each other. So what can we do about it? Make AI subservient. AI should be subservient to humans, not the other way around. Discrete way of using AI. Don't use AI for everything. Leave something to yourself. OTT platforms, right? Go to the movie theater. There's an option available. And this is what Stephen said, and you can read it faster than I can speak. There will be fake news, there will be fake stories, and everyone know what is happening in the Gen Z in Nepal. Everybody knows that. Fake news, and the entire social fabric is destroyed. Why? Because they don't trust anything. You send a small WhatsApp message, you trust that. They don't care whether it is true or not. And everyone is fluid. Nobody knows why. But everyone is flared simply because dependence. You take away the mobile phone, and there are a lot of such things on the YouTube. You see that small kids in the West, you take away the mobile phone, they become so violent. They will be parents. Parents are the ones who gave you the mobile phone. Now you're hitting your own parents just because you're addicted so much that you lose touch with the emotions. So retain that. And then, even if there was an AI playing a major role, there should be alignment of the values. And that is what was the title of the talk. I just want to set up a certain stage for before we reach there. The trouble is, that the definition of value does not have a universal background. The definition of value is based on the culture. It's based on the context. It's based on the people. What is value for you? Value for you, suppose you're very honest and I'm making more money because I'm dishonest. I will say, I don't care about your values. That is your problem because I'm making more money. So how do you define values and how do you impose values? This was traditionally in the families we used to grow up with a certain value system. Because of the nuclear evolution of the family, that has also gone to a great extent. Of course, there are certain brilliant examples, very inspiring examples. However, we need to find the value system back. And even if we are in touch with the AI, we must teach value system to AI. The trouble is, which value system? Your family value system or somebody's value system? Somebody in US, somebody in India, whose value system? And nowadays it's very common in Japan. You may not be aware of this. Maybe you're all. Over there, the job pressures have gone so high. People are hiring parents on rent. Parents and kids are living in separate places. They call a company, say that today I'm missing my parents. Can you supply old people? And they welcome me like my parents. And at the end of the day, it's all fake. It's all a stage managed. But then their emotions have to be expressed. So they talk to fake parents. Fake parents welcome them. Oh, I was missing your son. Where were you? They want to hear this. And finally, 1 hour, okay, they get the payment. Thank you very much. Is this the kind of life we want to live? Maybe due to competition because their birth rates have gone down significantly and also the independence in the society has gone up. Is this what we are looking for? Or are we looking at using robots when it's absolutely necessary? That's a question that we have to answer. So AI, even if it comes to another life, it should be dependent, the dependency on the humans. So you should be able to switch off the machine at will if it is behaving nasty. Value driven and only for assistance, not for replacement. If you're replacing humans with the machines, trust me, you'll not like it after some time. Today, I'm saying this to all the young students in the audience. If you go to a 5-star hotel, okay, there's a suite, 5-star hotel, and the college will say, I will pay for your 5-star hotel bill for the next 1 month. After 2 days, you will run away from there. You will run away. Because you say it's an artificial life, 80, 100 dishes every day. Who wants to eat so much? Overabundance, it's not sustainable. You will go back home and, you want home food. Artificial life has its limits. We have to make sure that even if we are in touch with the artificial stuff, this should be another control. I should have the ability to switch on and switch off the assistance from the enemy. Now, as I said, the human value or the value definition is different in different places. What is a value? It is a belief that something is worth having or worth striving for. Either you have it or you're striving for that. So then you have certain traits from every culture. From our own nation, we have certain traits that we have defined. So in the East, generally speaking, the way it used to be, of course, things have changed. In the East, good character, harmony, and dharma used to be the value-driven life. But in the West, the focus is on appearance, how you talk, how you sell. Control, not cooperation, control. And the rights, duty versus rights. We're not saying this is wrong or right. We're not saying this is incorrect and this is correct. No, this is not where we are going. We're just saying these are different flavors of human mind. Which one you want to attach to and which one the robot should attach to. That we have to define. If somebody in the US is designing the software, they'll obviously go for the Western version. and then you're looking at robots and you want them to have value of your own culture, it will not happen. Because they've been programmed for something else. Earlier, we used to have only two genders, he, she. This is how we used to talk to each other. Not that I'm not saying this is wrong, don't get it there. But if you say either he or she, nowadays people don't know what to call themselves. You call it he, she, they, z, something. I don't know where it is going. Maybe there are more versions. What are we doing? If intelligence is leading to confusion, I think ignorance is better. Because at least it gives you clarity of what to do next. Otherwise, time, not discussing all time. I'm not saying about this is whether it is correct or incorrect. That is not the question here. The question is, are we clear about what we are doing? The more we're unclear, the more the robots and AI will take over us. And if you say that the best value system in the entire world, supposed to change for a little bit of deliberation here, and see how our value systems have evolved over time. I remember in our state back then, 40, 50 years back then, if you're trying to find a groom for a girl, our first criteria was that this boy, is he smoking and drinking? If yes, eliminated from the choices, totally, instant. Now you don't even ask that question because even girls are drinking, girls are smoking. So the value system has changed. Was that correct or is this correct? Well, that is left to us because there is independence, there is liberty. If you take an step, if it enhances your abilities, then that's the right way to go forward. If you're addicted to something in the name of liberty, I think this is very sad because you'll be addicted to more. So, which value, given that ourselves changed, remember that. Now we are giving up beyond the robots, but ourselves changed. Which values should be given to robots? It's a big question mark. The current value system, that was 50 years back, or the one that was back when there was a struggle for independence, that value system, or when there was at the time of King's, thank you very much, King's, that value system, which value system should we give to robots? It's like we have changed, but we want robot to be very traditional. But we have also changed, our jeans are torn, but we want the robot to have a nice dress, looking nice. We copied Americans in the jeans. These were workplace clothes. We copied them. No problem, that was fine. Now, when you're cutting the jeans, cutting them. And this, when you have this jean strap cut and badly cut, it's more expensive than an intact jean. We do not know where it has come from. You're destroying something and enhancing the value. How does it play in the human mind? Maybe it's cool, we do not know. And when you give a certain text to the coders, they don't have time for moral lessons. They are so busy and burn out. You say, just give us this text and we'll put it in the code. So it is our job to generate the text and give it to them. And also, you think AI is safe? Well, there's a world authority who spent 2 decades in AI safety. It's very clear that this is not something that is absolutely safe, both from the safety perspective and also from the other social perspective. We have to pause and think how much we want to adopt. So now you're trying to train the machines with the data that you feel comfortable with, and it has to be a value-driven design. The trouble is when you're dealing with a multicultural system, there's no single framework that fits all the societies. And this is what I said, a few minutes back. We have to decide what is my. So in this context, we say, in context of our own country, we just stick to what is our system. Whether it is good, bad, ugly, or best, it doesn't matter. This is what has worked for generations. Let us take it seriously and let us see whether there are some merits. And there will be some merits in the current generation of knowledge. That's also fine. But then there are contrasting, of the same, so to say, value-based definitions. In the traditional settings, there were personal goals. In the traditional setting, there were family responsibilities. And now we're talking about personal goals. So which one is better? Personal goal or family responsibility? Because there are kids in the family who say, my goal is not important, I have to take care of my parents. If I take care of my parents, I will feel fulfilled. Is that the way to go forward? Or say, 10 a month's job in the US, and I will send money to my parents. They'll be fine. I'll put some, need some kind of assistance for them. They'll be fine. Which one is better? We have to decide. There is no yes and no. These are the questions for us. Nowadays, it's liberty because of the Western influence. There was no dependence, or there was no lack of independence earlier. It is just that there was a tehzeeb, as we call it, or there was a respect for elders. That has been taken over by the productivity. If somebody is coming my way, my own parents, I don't care, I'll do something else because of the productivity, my money is somewhere else. Whether it is good or bad, it is all contextual. It is based on the people and the situations. There's no single answer for that. So when we install these models, so we have to identify what are my core non-negotiables. Universal non-negotiables. What is that core set? We will identify that. And what is my plugin into this? That we have to identify. Plugins can be based on a certain individual culture, but at least let us decide on the core values that we are all connected with. And there should be a continuous oversight by humans. Machines should not change these data over time because now machines have started thinking, but say, oh, what you suggest doesn't make sense to me, I'm going to change it. We should not allow that. We should read only. Then the wrong in the computer cannot be changed. It's a read only. This is how it should do. And if we are talking about Bharatiya culture, we're talking about culture. Remember, we're not talking religion here. Culture means these are the practices which have survived for centuries. All religions together, this is the practices that have survived for centuries. Remember, we're talking of culture here. So we should try to have this data in the AI systems and customize them for our conditions. Likewise, to give a broad coverage to our survival, we should try to take as much as possible. And this is a responsibility of a teacher or of a scientist or of a policymaker. They need to understand what is written because our opinion of that creates a problem. If my opinion is different than your opinion and the text remains the same, then it is a problem. So we need to agree on certain things and say, okay, if we don't agree, let us give both questions and see which one flies later. Likewise, we have to train AI with this data. There was a time when we used to teach, when we used to treat guest as divine. I don't know if it is the same nowadays in many families. So there is a need for a call to action by all the people in the society. And where does the AI take the data from? It takes the data from publications. That's why I'm saying keep publishing. The more you publish, the better it gets for AI because AI does not have a brain. It just, the programmers will then say, okay, do the literature mining across the web, collect the data, and then do the data filtering, clean up the data, and then use the rest of the data for your algorithms. So it's very important that while we're teaching, we're giving yarn to AI, we ourselves need to change. The transformation has to begin within and outside, within first. Because AI will only mirror what we say or what we think or what we give. AI will only mirror that. It will not, it may, now it's very interesting because the discussion is going to go in different directions. I'm trying my best to avoid distraction of the thoughts. but just to highlight a very quick point. Till now, we have been able to patent. The patent is based on what? Novelty, non-obviousness, and application. These three verticals, if you're meeting these three criteria, you get a patent. AI can do all three. So I asked a patent officer, a very famous patent officer recently, can humans patent something in future? We do not know. The answer is most likely no. Because a machine has already predicted something, application, novelty, non-obviousness, everything is gone. So how can you patent if machine is doing your job? That means there's no longer obvious. It is already obvious with the machines. So teachers have a central role to play in shaping up the AI value system, like the one, the journal that you have in your college. Use that platform to load time. Do not look for foreign platforms. Okay. Well, I'm not saying do not look means that not for everything. At least we should have something within ourselves. If you always look for, journals from outside the country, tomorrow shut down the journal and you lose the data. If they do that, or some website, you think that okay, I'm going to pull the things from the website. They may shut down the website and you lose the data. Something that we own ourselves. Participate in the knowledge transition, write policy briefs, white papers, essays, reinterpret Dharma, and so on. And this will help the coders because they need a framework. Introduce new training materials. And this will have an impact because coders will now code with conscience. Because what is it? Just from the published material, and they just use it. Design projects on cultural data curation. Curated data is very important because if you have data, then AI will have its own algorithms to interpret what is the meaning of that. Let's say you give a religious text and use some shloka there or ayat there. They will say, okay, this is my understanding, you have to live with that. What will you do? Nothing. So you give the interpretation, you give the explanation and say, I stick to this. No deviation, just stick to this. If we are able to do that, then we can save the culture even if the AI comes up. And also we have to develop an AI ethics council, engage members with the policy think tanks and institutional committees. And it should not be just technocentric. There should be some amount of subjectivity, some amount of emotion, some amount of discussions, and a scope of changing this in future. Likewise, the cross-disciplinary dialogue is what is needed. Publish articles on shared vocabularies and embed that into algorithms. Likewise, the lifestyle modeling and case studies, that needs to be up. So now you might say, okay, then what shall I do? Very simple. Write articles on topics like, and you can publish it in Vantage. What do you mean by the values of AI? Why AI must learn from Bharat's pluralism? It's good. You see, the more you do the research articles, the better it gets for the algorithm. It will pick up your reason, the data that is shared. Likewise, there are value filters and there are stories. They retain the memory better than remembering the text verbatim. And end of the day, it comes back to the humans. So the next few slides is not about AI, it's about humans. It's about us. Because the way this is how AI is going to project. If we don't control our addictions, of course, you cannot do that I just mentioned. Live consciously. Say, for example, the moon revolves around the earth and earth revolves around the sun. Electrons revolve around the nucleus. This is not an example of intelligence. This is an example of compulsion. Billions of years this is good, but still compulsion. They cannot change the root. But if you lift the bottle like this or like this is the power of human choice. It might look very simple, but this is the power. Humans have the power of choice. It may not be as profound as an Earth moving around the sun, but Earth cannot change the track. It's fixed in certain geometric elliptical orbit. Humans have the power of choice. We have a prediction, but we also have a power of intelligence. Live consciously. The current temperature that has been found in the universe is minus 270.5 degree. If it was slightly less, we would have touched absolute zero. So thank universe for maintaining this 2.5 degrees of margin. Universe, that's why we are alive today. They were able to talk because of the 2.5 degree of margin. Imagine it becomes absolute zero. Electrons do not move, atoms do not move, everything is still, we're finished. The big chill, we are going towards big chill, where everything will be frozen. Not in our lifetime, maybe another couple of billions of years. But that is what the Big Bang construction of the universe is going to go to the single point singularity, and maybe a new universe will be born. At least we need to thank universe for keeping us alive. By the time we finish reading the sentence, Earth would have traveled 300 kilometers around the sun. We see that moment, we see everything is still, the table is still, computer is still, everything is still, but we are moving very fast in the space, very fast. In fact, when you do this revolution, it's not a revolution, it's like a spring. The Earth is moving because the space is expanding, sun is getting pushed, Earth is getting pushed, planets are getting pushed. The actual picture is not that of the two-dimensional figure of this, whatever you're seeing on the screen. It is actually a spring. What tells Earth to come back? There is no traffic signs in the space. Turn left, turn right. Who tells the Earth? We need to thank something or somebody outside us for enabling it. Physics, mathematics, that's fine, but we need to have gratitude for that. So thank you, Mother Earth, for coming back on time, because of which we have day and night and seasons. Thank you. As a granted, you know, it's not my problem, it's somebody else's problem. My problem is that I have to complain all the time. Because by complaining, we make friends, right? But then when the friendship goes down, you become the same person. Complaint should not have been the fabric of society, but then that's the way it is. What we breathe out, what we breathe out, trees breathe in. You know this better than I do. What they breathe out, we breathe in. So half of your lungs are outside the body, right? We only have lungs, half are outside the body. So thank you very much for keeping us alive. We need to thank all the plants here because they're supplying oxygen. We cannot do session for oxygen, and you start forgetting everything. You talk to the soldiers, they have the slips in their pockets, and they put the slips. Okay, I have to do this. They can't remember. This is the hypoxia condition that they face. So thank them, living consciously. And we also know the current generation is the descendant of you can't change that. We will come to this phase that we want fast food, fast messages, fast gratification. Fast celebrate friendships, celebrate everything. And thanks to the Lord, there's no emotional content around anything. I'm not saying this is good or bad, Adi. It is just that we will stop being emotional. There was a time when we were emotional about things. We will stop being emotional. It's mechanical. In the generation when we face problems, we used to remember the divine. In the current generation, I've seen the students, when they face the problem, they use these words. Tell me, you used to get inspiration if you connect with the divine. What kind of inspiration do you get? Divine looks a divine. Which one is better? Because your problems will go away. Just because you come disappear, we need to change ourselves. Conscious way of living, not mechanical. So we need to digitally do ourselves. Spend time with the nature. Spend time outside the classroom. Spend time outside home. Put mobile phones for a while. If you want to save yourself when AI takes over, then I think you need to get used to that. If you have income, be thankful because incomes, the emotions we have, the chance of intelligence and the chance of knowledge. If you're all convenience based, it's a bad news. So rediscover emotions, and there are some studies which are saying human connection to nature has declined 60% in the last 200 years. There are scientific studies. 60% of our interaction with nature has already declined. 40% is left that AI will take over. Then I said, okay, I'm going to make more money than compete with each other. Gone for a toss. So just to cut the long story short, I think I overshot the time. I realized that. So this is my last slide. We receive motivation from an atom. And nobody has a smooth life, by the way. You think that you become some big cheese because it's been leaner through. I was fired in Singapore from a job. I was fired in India from a job because we did very well. Well, the boss, so they fired us. How does it matter? We are still alive, right? So we receive motivation from an atom that says be positive. We're always surrounded by negative things. So I'd like to stop. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Professor, for a very inspiring introduction. The connection that Professor Dhar is exactly artificial intelligence. A lot of us here are teachers, educators, serving such a great as well. But it truly lies in the realm of inconvenience, in the dialogue, and in the through speech. Professor so very nicely concluded gun in 2025 that artificial intelligence fosters efficiency. It is important, but it is important. It's also efficiency that is driven. Thank you so much again, sir, for sort of minding the session of from through your speech. And I ask the members of the audience to please give a big round of applause. I request the members of the to settle down because the waiting section after such wonderful actions. Come forward and
Thank you, Nikita. So at last, the much awaited moment is here for all of us. We have had 3 days of intense engagement with different themes, adding to the understanding of minds and machines. We could see the hard work that went into preparations and presentations. Each presentation was outstanding in its own way, and I'm certain our jury members to face truly challenging tasks in selecting the winners, as was evident from the evaluation sheets that we went through. We are very grateful for our jury members for generously giving their time to evaluate the presentations and also sharing their thoughtful comments and suggestions that will surely help the presenters refine and strengthen their work further. Our esteemed jury members came from several renowned institutions, and it is my privilege to acknowledge them by name. Professor Swati Agarwal from Department of Chemistry, Motilal Nehru College, DU. Professor Abdul Karim, School of Sciences, IGNOU. Professor Payal Nagpal, Department of English, Janki Devi Memorial College. Professor Raj Lakshmi, Department of Sociology, Janki Devi Memorial College. Professor Seema Makhija from Acharya Narendra Dev College, Delhi University. Professor Ahmed from Sri Dev Suman, Uttarakhand University, Rishikesh. Professor M. Thil from the Department of Chemistry, Delhi University. Professor Dr. Upadesh Verma from Department of Physics and Astrophysics, Delhi University. Professor Devakar Yadav from School of Computer and Information Sciences, IGNU. Professor Prashant Singh, ARSD, Delhi University. Dr. Samrita Sinha, Sofa, Dr. Nita, School of Letters, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Delhi. Dr. Pratisha Borbora, University, Guwahati, Assam. Dr. Rukhsana Zaman, Department of Anthropology, Dr. Devang Chha, Department of Economics, Scholar from Delhi University, Dr. Pratima from Department of Mathematics, Delhi University. So from all these names, it is very have had a lot of subject experts to the presentations. Before to the prize distribution session, we have an important announcement we made. It gives me immense pleasure to share that Equinox 2025 is moving a step further in its academic journey. The full-length research papers presented at the conference will be published as an edited proceedings with an ISBN. So this will extend the reach and visibility of the scholarly discussions that we have had in the conference. So details regarding the submission guidelines, formatting requirements, review process and timelines, they will be shared shortly with all the registered participants. So we look forward to your active participation in enriching this academic contribution and making the proceedings of Equinox 2025 a valuable resource for not only researchers but academicians across the disciplines all over the world. So with this brief introduction, I would come to the prize distribution section. So we had received a total of 70 abstracts, and these abstracts, they were divided into 6 groups for oral presentations and 2 groups for poster presentations. So when we had 8 to 10 we have given first and second prizes. We have given the first prize. Regarding the accredited to your accounts for the details for which we will ask through email. And also the certificate, it will be sent to you, right? So I would request now our Chief Guest, Professor Dhar, to be Dr. Gopi and Professor Brutati to please, come forward for the distribution ceremony. Well, I'm announcing the names of the winners. The winner, the entire team can come on the stage for the photograph. First, I'll start with the presentation session. We had 2 sessions, one for sciences and one for social sciences. In the sciences section, we are giving 2 prizes. The second prize for poster session goes to P87 hexameric acid, a novel agent for agricultural crop cultivation. Authors are Sanya, Nihita Viduri, Ayushi Vandana Mansi from the Department of Botany, Maitri College. The mentor can also should come with the students to complete the team. Congratulations, all students. And the first prize in the poster session for sciences goes to P06, Explainable AI-driven framework for automated threat assessment from the Department of Computer Science, Maitri College. Authors are Devyanshi, Suramya, Jaya, Naina, Maurya, Rupali, Shikha Sharma. Congratulations to the entire team. Group 2, Social Sciences. The second prize goes to Evolution of Violence Faced by Women and the Translation Through the Decades in Hindi Cinema. Neha Sharma, Pardika from English Department, Maitri College. Is the team here? The first prize in this category goes to PO30, Revisiting the Royal Police Agency in Mobile Delhi, a historical analysis. Also from Maitri College, Cynthia, Nafisa, and Mukta. Many congratulations, girls. For oral presentations, I'll start with group 1. Presentations, and the second goes to Beetles in the City, the city of ladybird and leaf beetles in urban green spaces of Delhi. Antina Singh, Pooja Kumari, Preeti Kumari from Department of Zoology, College. Congratulations, girls. The first prize in group 1 goes to collection and preservation of terrestrial insects from Maitri College campus. Also from Department of Zoology, Maitri College, Ananya, Ishika, Parnita, Payal, Vidhi, Shreyansi, Karuna, Yadav, Mamta Pandey, and Jaspreet Kaur. Congratulations to the entire team. In group 2, the second prize goes to OB14, Safeguarding Public Health with green synthesized particles for sustainable water remediation. Department of Electronic Science and Department of Physics, Bhaskar Achar College of Applied Sciences, Delhi University. Do we have any member from the team? Okay. So the first prize in this is to OP13, a pocket size BS1750 sensor enabled photometric monitoring PCB device for versatile applications. Department of Physics, Maitri College, Prajalit Shikha, Ritudhindra, Savi Mishra, Kashish, Sania, Devanshi, Sobhagya, Anjali, Anshul, Rupal. Many congratulations to the entire team. Group 3. We have so 2 projects that scored the similar marks. So OP23, molecular characterization and expression of antimicrobial peptide hepcidin in fish channa data, Department of Zoology, Maitri College. Suhasini, Manisha, Shreya, Priyanka, Jyoti Singh, and Ratiti Roy. And sharing the prize is OP24, epigenetic clocks in neurodegenerative diseases, enhancing prediction through equitable machine learning by Prashansa and Ankita Patpeti from Department of Brain Sciences, Imperial College London, United Kingdom, and Department of Twin Research and Genetic Epidemiology, King's College London, UK. Many congratulations, girls. And the first prize in this group goes to 21 insights into asparagine and in silico analysis across vertebrates, Department of Zoology, Maitri College. Priyanka, Vaishnavi, Kajal, Arya, Khushi, Jyoti Singh, Bratati Roy. Only one from the entire team? Congratulations. Now, group 4, we had only 5 presentations in this group, so only first prize, OP20, Illusions of Dystopian Technocultures, AI Insects and Care, Medhavi Gupta, Ashuka Chabria, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. Congratulations. Go there. In group 5, again, the first prize, OP31, Shifting Shores, a sociological study of occupational mobilization of Mallar community in Kashi, Department of Sociology, Maitri College, Mridusmita, Drishti, and Swadha. Many congratulations to the entire team. Group 6, we have 2 prizes here. The second prize goes to OP43, Tackling Data Sparsity in Recommender Systems Using Matrix Factorization Techniques, Department of Mathematics, Maitri College. Simran Kaur, Geetan Manchanda, Tulsi, Manya Bhatt, Anushka, and Kashish. Can we have the entire team here on stage? Congratulations. And for the first prize in this group, it is secured by OPS 36, Exploring Roots with Mathematical Algorithms, Department of Mathematics, Maitri College, Neelima Odi, Rajni Gupta, Janvi, and Udita Anand. So many congratulations to all the winners. And I also like to congratulate all the participants as well, because the of the participants, it's a wonderful presentation by all of you in all the groups, be it textures or oral. दो लोगों बात नहीं one more thing, actually skip the session that goes short of time. So I will request if you feed send the feedback and we'll put it on the social page, right? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Just to add to that, we also have student here. So if interested students, participants wish to record messages recorded, the student will be short messages, which is also social media. All right. Very short members of the audience. Shut the door. Just a small segue, see short video. Straight from King's College in.
Hi everyone, Shansa. I'm an alumna of Day-3 College of the Zoology batch of 2023, and I presented in this year's conference in the third category of machine learning. It has been an amazing experience attending all these sessions and trying to see where the field of ML is heading, what things need to be considered, and it's such a growing and buzzing field. And I've always loved Equinox because it has such an interdisciplinary nature where you learn beyond just the silo of whatever subject that you're studying. And it is also the place where my personal academic journey started. I moved to London for my master's. The skills that I learned presenting at Equinox is something that I carry with me even today. I presented in 2022, and it's really great being back here in 2025. And the opportunity that Day-3 gives to its own students to present and to learn presenting their work, interacting with experts, and also answering questions is something which is a priceless opportunity. It is something that I'm indebted to Day-3 for. It is something that has helped me in my professional journey beyond just academics. And honestly, I look forward to joining again next year. I'm so grateful that I came and I was able to connect with my old friends, see them, and also just a lot of so here. So it's been nice being back at the place which feels like home and connecting with my mentors. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you all next year. Thank you.
So heartening to say that it continues to act as a platform to and the institution. And on that note, yes, all the students and participants, if you wish to just share your thoughts. You're also encouraged to tag Vantage. It's on Twitter. It is Instagram, social media platforms. Just also encourage us to know that there's been such a strong engagement. Come to the conclusion session, valedictory session 2025. This requires to come forward.
Thank you, Nikita, for calling me to give a formal vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Dhar to kindly, agree to come all the way from Kochi to, for it has been a great honor to have him with us today. And so finally, we come to the end of this 3-day conference. Our endeavor was to bring together diverse minds and create a meaningful dialogue. And I believe I can say with confidence that over the past 3 days, we had insightful and stimulating discussions. This vote of thanks will be a little longer because it is a product of tremendous collective efforts. So on behalf of the organizing team, I would like to begin expressing my heartfelt gratitude to all the eminent speakers who opened the doors of explorations of new ideas and expansions of frontiers of knowledge. I would also like to extend a sincere thanks to all the members of the editorial and advisory board of the Journal of Thematic Analysis. Their advice and suggestions have been invaluable for the success of this conference. I am indeed thankful to all participants, students, faculty, and research scholars who joined us and gained knowledgeable insights with us. Truly, your participation in whatever form enriched this conference and made it meaningful. My sincere and special thanks to our principal, Professor Haritma Chopra, for thinking along with us and giving us the space to be creative. To Vice Principal Professor Jyotir Singh for her constant encouragement and steady support throughout the conference. To Ms. Radhika for facilitating communication with the speakers, dignitaries from universities across the country, and much more. To Mr. Ran, Mr. Jitendra, Mr. Bijesh, Mr. Sachin, for helping us out in all possible ways, from making arrangements at college to providing hospitality to our guests. A big thank you to all our student volunteers. Your team and cheerful support made the conference a grand success, and we are truly proud of you. I also thank all the participants and the viewers who joined us through the Zoom and YouTube channels. I also take this opportunity to thank the audience who helped us with all the decorations and gifting. A heartfelt thanks to all the members of the organizing team, without whose sincere and tireless efforts this conference would not have been possible. I would like to take thanks of all the members. Professor Shalin, Professor Polly, Dr. Lu, Dr. Himaka, Dr. Jaspreet Kaur, Dr. Josna, Dr. Tejinder, Dr. Neeraj Kumar, Ms. Nikita, Ms. Mridusmita, Dr. Babita, Dr. Simran Kaur, Dr. Neha Baghel, Ms. Shubhra Suman, Dr. Divakar, Dr. Vedvardhan, Ms. Aditi Alav, Dr. Sarika Sharma, and Ms. Reena. Each one of you brought something unique to the table, and together we made Equinox 2025 happen. So words fall short to convey the dedication, intense involvement, and love with which my fellow conveners, Dr. Gopi Bitupati, Professor Pinky Bajaj Gandhi, and Professor Bratati Roy, worked tirelessly to conceptualize and actualize this event. To everyone who contributed, a big thank you. This has been a collective achievement, and we look forward to continue this tradition of learning and collaboration. We hope to see you again in Equinox 2026 next year. Till then, best wishes to all of you, and a big thank you. Just a final, because without that, this is not complete. The participants and okay. So just a request to all stay back for victories. So have our invited speakers for technical session 8. I request them so to please come out twice. I request the participants to come forward on the stage. First, we have the group of participants.
I mean, yes, we know, but don't remember all the names. You can contact me on that. Oh God, the type कई जगह है यार ऐसे तो नहीं आएंगे आगे चलो आगे जाने की जगह नहीं इधर चले जाएंगे उस साइड ही चला गया पर जगह ही नहीं है गाइस जो बैठ सकते हैं वो बैठ जाओ मैं पार्टिसिपेट दो पिक्चर्स
I